is currently living since being thrown out of the Windsor estate. The police have arrested Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. It's an extraordinary revelation and development on this story involving the Epstein files and all the allegations that have been swirling around about Andrew over the many years, from Virginia Giuffre, now sadly deceased, and since then, and certainly what's been contained in the Epstein files as released in the last few weeks. But the police have arrived at Sandringham Estate this morning, where Andrew has made his new home. It's his 66th birthday today. What a birthday present that is. He has been arrested by the police. Of course, the brother of the current king, the second son of our late Queen Elizabeth. This is an extraordinary development. Those of us who've been talking an awful lot about establishment cover-ups and lack of, should we say, interest by the police in what are very, very serious allegations against Andrew. Perhaps pleased that that pressure has finally been put on the police, and they have done the job of actually looking into these issues seriously. Must bear in mind, of course, that the Prince has not been charged with any crime at this point, and he has always denied any wrongdoing in relation to any of the allegations about him. We'll give you more on that. We'll talk to you about that throughout the show, but I'm just being told that the arrest has been on suspicion of misconduct in public office. This, of course, relates to those Epstein file allegations and the documents that, if they are true, would suggest that he had, it is alleged, passed on basically what was confidential government information when he was the UK trade envoy for this country for 10 years to Jeffrey Epstein for Jeffrey Epstein's financial gain. Just breaking news in the
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good morning. Happy Saturday. I hope you've got lovely, delightful things planned for the next couple of days, that you're cooling your heels, not having to work, not being a slave to the man, or perhaps you are at work just like me and nonetheless enjoying it, I hope. Whatever you're doing, I'm looking forward to keeping you company for the next 3 hours. And if you're watching me in the future and this is in the past, well, hello, future you, and thank you for catching up with me either on the Talk app or on YouTube. What discerning taste you have. What a wonderful way to spend this time. Okay, busy old news day today, and you'd never guess what we're going to be talking about. Yeah, that's right, we're going to be talking about cats. No, we're going to be talking about local election results. And I'm joined, as per usual, by the wonderful... Today, very casual.
Yes.
But I like it, summer casual.
Thank you very much. I thought it's actually very lovely here in London, and also this is about my 19th media appearance in 3 days. So I'm out of clean white shirts.
I thought you looked a bit frazzled in the makeup room. I didn't want to say, but when you came in, I was like, whoa, that's the before shot.
Yes, normally. This is the best they can do on the best of times.
Is it cold?
Yes.
It's cold in here,
to be fair,
isn't it?
this room is either
air conditioning's out of control.
The hottest thing in the world, or it is the coldest place in the world.
It depends who you follow in.
True.
And, you know, you'd think, given that Mark Dolan has absolutely no flesh on them bones and wears shorts, by the way, you never see that under the desk, but he's got shorts on. I don't know why the air conditioning's down to 0. So in a minute, if Pete and I have chattering teeth, that is why. It's OK, the hint has been recognised by the gallery. Faith is coming in to turn the temperature up.
There was Faith, and then there was a sign, and literally waving a big flag.
By the way, we're not being really lazy. Pete and I wired into the desks. You know, we're not just like, come here, bring me grapes. No, we are sort of connected. I just forgot. I was too distracted to fiddle with the air conditioning.
There's just so much news.
There is so much news. Should we talk about the news?
Yes.
Let's do that. Because, well, it's been pretty monumental elections. Some elections that weren't supposed to happen, or were and then weren't, and then they came back. We now know why the Labour Party and perhaps the Conservative Party were so keen for these elections not to go ahead. Ain't that right? Yeah,
without a shadow of a doubt. I mean, you've got to take it and give all the credit to Reform on this one. They have also had some problems, but I will say on the whole, to rip out the heart of the Labour Party in some of their biggest and safest seats is astronomical. This was a party that didn't exist a couple of years ago, and they've just taken places like Tameside, Hartlepool. It is absolutely astounding. And I take congratulations to Nigel and the team there, because it was a very smart campaign. They knew what they were doing.
What for you is the biggest scalp?
Oh, it's got to be the loss of Wales. The Labour losing control of Wales is just incredible, because the Labour Party and Wales are the same thing.
Right?
They're the same thing.
I used to call it the one-party state, because
it really was. It made North Korea look, pluralistic. It was rather ridiculous. But for that to happen, but then also, like, to have Reform swoop in and not, knock Labour back to third is just amazing. I honestly thought they were going to do it. I'm going to say I actually predicted they would get 1,500 seats, so I was about 80 out.
Hey,
so not too bad. But because I thought they'd take second place in Scotland. I was surprised at that one, I have to admit. But I suppose we'll get into it. But I have to admit, when you look at the mechanics of this and the numbers, it's even more interesting, because every election has been radically different. Even the ones here in London have given us more splinter results than we've ever seen. This is a fundamental redrawing of the political map, and I don't think we're going back to the two-party system for a very, very long time.
If ever. Or perhaps we might have a new two-party system where the two parties are no longer the old two parties.
Yep, that's looking likely, because if you read what Sir John Curtis's piece yesterday was basically saying, bye-bye two parties. But to kind of, succinct it down.
It's funny, isn't it? I think for a long time people have always felt that they had to vote for one or the other, that even though there were other parties, it wasn't viable to vote for them. It wouldn't actually transfer. Do you know, we haven't heard that message for ages, have we? The whole, like, well, I vote for a reformist, I vote for Labour. Do you know what I mean? That idea, if you vote for this, actually what you get is something different. That narrative has died.
Yeah, because it's just not true. Because what's happened is, normally, as we know, if you don't vote Labour, then it would go to the Conservatives. That just hasn't happened this time. It has also meant that voters are now more issue-based and focused on singular points than ever else. So they're not really grand ideology voters, they're not loyalty voters or anything like that. They are, we don't like this specific thing, you're in power, you're getting punished for it. This was the punishment local elections, that's what I've been calling it, because if you were the incumbent, you were going to get your backside handed to you, no matter where you were in the country. And the anger was very clear from the left and from the right.
And what about Sir Keir Starmer? Do you know, I was just thinking about him, and in my head I had the music, should I stay or should I go now?
Yeah, I've had that one.
If I stay, it will be trouble.
I love how he took complete accountability and then didn't.
Shall we have a little look?
Yes, please do.
I know the forever nasally tones of our current Prime Minister, but for how long, who knows? Here we go.
Let me be clear, these are really tough results. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. And we have lost brilliant Labour representatives, people who put so much into their communities, so much into our party and our movement. And the voters have sent a message about the pace of change, how they want their lives improved. Labour's elected to meet those challenges, and I'm not going to walk away from those challenges and plunge the country into chaos.
You might not walk away, mate.
Yeah.
You might end up being chased out with pitchforks.
Yeah.
But, what I find so crazy, the man talks in platitudes. He says, people don't like the pace of change. What change? What pace? What are you talking about? Break it down for me. Yeah. And then he says, essentially, in The Guardian today, because that's going to convince the entire nation to continue, the Red Wall are coming right back if The Guardian's got an article. Yeah. He's written this sort of piece saying, well, we're not going to do anything in a panic. We're not going to go to the left or the right. I'm like, Well, where are you going?
Yeah.
What is the...
I wouldn't mind if they went to the left or the right, because they'd pick an idea.
Yeah, pick a path.
Pick a path.
But it's, ironically, he kept saying to Donald Trump, what is your plan? What do you have no plan when it comes to Iran? I'm like, what's your plan when it comes to your own country, mate?
Yeah. What's the plan with your own job, let alone anything else?
But what I find astonishing with this, we're not going to go to the left, we're not going to go to the right, is he's basically saying out loud the problem he faces, which is the solutions the country needs and what the voters want are right-wing policies, i.e., curbing immigration, cutting the welfare state, getting rid of net zero and all the lanyard stuff. Yeah. That's what voters want. But what his backbenchers want is completely the opposite. So that's why he's like, well, if I go to the right, we'll sort out the problems and start winning back some votes, but actually I'll never get through Parliament because all of these people want me to go to the left. And so that's where he's been since he got into power, because our country was facing very serious issues after not really having a right-wing government since, I don't know, Margaret Thatcher.
Yeah, my favourite is when Alistair Campbell always says, it's the most right-wing government we've ever seen. I was like, really? Yay! And it's just not how it happened. Right. That's why I'm always angry at. But you're so right, because Keir Starmer never, ever understood he was not voted in because the country loved him. He was voted in because he wasn't a Conservative.
Right.
That is why he won.
They were voted out.
Yes.
That's exactly
He's never grasped that fact. He thinks he's got this moral kind of crusade and the country is 100% behind him. He doesn't understand why he won, and that is why he has failed.
I was listening to Lucy Powell this morning.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I know. At least she didn't call everyone a racist for once. But I was listening to her on the Today programme. Are you not going to do another?
I was drinking.
Sorry.
I was drinking.
Yeah, 'cause I was waiting for it, garnering sympathy. I was listening to her on the Today programme.
It's been a rough morning.
I know. But what was amazing is she kept saying, well, the problem is it's cost of living and it's not been able to sell or communicate all the great things the Labour Party have done to help people's everyday lives. And I'm like, the problem, my friend, and when are you going to get this, is immigration. Yeah. I'm sorry, you'd have to be living in a sensory deprivation tank to think otherwise, because you look all across Europe, you look at America, you look at the Western world, and all the legacy parties are being sacrificed by voters because of globalisation and mass immigration. And you could look at this two ways. It's like, well, who have you lost your votes to? Number one, you've lost your votes to Reform. Why? Because Nigel Farage has banged on about immigration all the time. That's like, that's his USP. Everyone knows that when it comes to authenticity on this topic, he means what he says. So you've lost a load of votes to Reform. Then on the other side, you've been losing big blocks of votes to the Muslim voting bloc. Guess what? They're immigrants. Yeah. It's like, whichever way you want to look at it, however you want to slice and dice it, they're hanging by their own petard right now because they won't do anything about immigration. And so the people who have come in that they thought were going to vote for them no longer do. Those communities have turned their backs. And everyone else doesn't want the levels of mass immigration. So until someone actually goes, OK, do you know what? Countries like being countries. They like having borders and identities and a sense of community. Until somebody gets that...
Yeah. No, you're completely right, because it's what we call valence politics. In other words, the voter can see a fundamental failure, and that is the small boats. They can see it. That's what makes it so powerful. And the petrol prices is another big one. It's one of the reasons why you never touch petrol prices, because it's something you see every single day on the big signs when you're driving past them. So
what's the petrol price today?
I don't know. I don't drive. I don't drive. I live in London. But just in general, it's just one of those old rules. But the small boats is the prime example, really, because you can see the failure. You can see the attempts to try to fix it and the failure to fix it. That is the big point, is that the Labour Party, yes, immigration is definitely the issue, but it is the failure to tackle it that they have absolutely catastrophically lost any ground on. Yeah. Because... the voter will just want you to do something and fix one thing. So this is my thing for Keir. If I was giving him advice, fix one thing. Yeah. Just one, and you might be in it with a chance of, maybe keeping at least 10 MPs at the next general election.
Right. Let's look at Wales, actually, now. Because thinking about the immigration thing, something's just sort of popped into my head, and I saw a map of Wales and how Wales voted. And you said it's a west-east divide in Wales. Yeah. That if you imagine turquoise is Reform, green is Plaid Cymru, all the way down the west side of Wales, the coast and all the way down to the south is green, and all the way down the border with England is turquoise. And I was just thinking then, well, why is that? Is it because, the sort of Welsh Nats don't really like Reform, don't like Farage? I was like, no, actually, do you know what it is? that's immigration, probably.
Yeah.
That is immigration.
It's also...
Because the communities in the west of Wales are barely touched by this stuff, despite Wales banging on about being a sanctuary country and all that. It's the big conurbations, it's the ones that are close to the English border that do have the asylum seekers, the big immigrant community, and I'm like, there it is again. The map shows you.
Without a shadow of a doubt. But Wales is also fascinating. It's the same thing in Scotland. The Reform were able to swoop in because there is no other right-wing choice. The Conservatives don't exist in Wales. They just don't exist realistically. And this is the
Did they get anybody in the Welsh Assembly? Like, even one?
Off the top of my head, I think they may have got one, I think. But Reform I can have a look now.
Yeah.
But it is absolutely amazing that they were able to very specifically actually just root out the Conservatives. That's really what this entire election was for Reform UK. This was about cementing the destruction of the Conservative Party as a local government force so they can propel themselves and have a good ground game for the general election.
Yeah.
They needed this win more so than, the country did, realistically, because... this is why I'm going to be very controversial. The biggest winner of these locals is the Liberal Democrats.
Oh,
the Liberal Democrats have been very smart. While also, maybe this Takeshi Castle guy might actually know what he's doing.
I was just squinting there. 838 seats went to the Liberal Democrats. Let's we'll talk about Conservatives. We'll talk about the Liberal Democrats, but let's go back to Wales, because I mean, look, what's interesting is when it comes to politics in Wales. The rest of the country failed to talk about it. Everyone always knew who Nicola Sturgeon was, but it was like, heard of Mark Drakeford? Everyone's like, no. And if you ask most people who's the First Minister, who's now just lost her seat, so I don't think anyone would really be able to tell you, other than those people who know a thing or two about Welsh politics. But it was, of course, Eluned Morgan. Baroness of Ely, apparently.
Yes,
Very Welsh. I know. Guys, just the opposite side of the country. It's like, OK, make that make sense. But anyway... she lost her constituency, and so she will have to step down as First Minister. Let's see what she had to say.
The Welsh Labour has suffered a catastrophic defeat. This is over 100 years of winning in Wales ends today. We have a lot of lessons to learn. It is important that we take the time to reflect on that. I will be stepping down as leader of the Labour Party in Wales. There will be a need for us to ask some very serious questions about where we go in future. We've heard the people of Wales, and we will need to respond. I was very clear that Keir Starmer was not standing in this election. I was standing, and I'm taking responsibility.
That's fairly decent of her.
Yeah.
Do you know
Also,
what I just
that was not subtle. That was not subtle in any way. That was about as subtle as about how cold it was in here.
I know, right? Do you know what I just realised watching that clip there? And I was like, oh, if I was queuing up in a post office behind her, I wouldn't know who she was.
Yes,
I knew the name, but that's not, in my mind, that's not how she looks. I'm like, oh. And apparently I was in the European Parliament with her. I'm like, oh, yeah.
Oh, there
really?
you go.
But, you know, it isn't. Let's be fair, Eluned, even though I don't really know who you are, never did. I don't think this was your fault, Medea. I really do think it is the fault of the National Party. Because for Labour to be ousted in Wales, it's got to be a cataclysm from the top.
Oh, it really does. She is right to a degree that, she was the one on the ballot. It wasn't really Keir Starmer. But you're also bang on that this was Keir Starmer. This was a lot to do with just the Labour Party as a whole.
Yeah, it's all of you.
Because for a long time, Labour Wales was its own thing. It was always separate from Westminster. No matter how bad it was for them kind of nationally, they always kind of stuck together. They always had that kind of good bond with the constituencies and all that kind of stuff. That has just disintegrated. Absolutely disintegrated. And that's the big thing for the Labour Party vote, is actually this kind of mishmash of lots of different groups of people. That has just run across. They've all run in opposite directions from each other.
This is seismic for Wales. We are going to essentially, I assume, get Plaid Cymru popped up by Labour now. But Plaid Cymru's policies, if you think Labour's left-wing...
thank you for bringing this up. Yeah.
All right, you know what's in store for you now. I mean, if you thought getting rid of Labour would get rid of the sort of, sanctuary state, the 20-mile-per-hour zones, all of that egregious stuff that the left-wing has brought to Wales, well... You better strap yourselves in, my friends.
Oh, my Lord, yes. The stuff they're talking about when it comes to kind of doling out kind of more money on benefits and all this kind of stuff, I really hope if you're a taxpayer in Wales, brace yourself. But I will say that the interesting thing is now you've got Sinn Féin in Northern Ireland, Plaid Cymru in Wales, and the SNP in Scotland. The 90s projects of the devolution to kind of put down nationalism has just been utterly refuted.
Do you know what?
And it's more of a threat now than it ever was.
You know what is so funny about all of this, though? Do you remember the day we played Gone?
Yes, I do. Yeah,
if you didn't
we
tune
said
in.
the devolved assemblies.
Yes, because basically, so do you know what would save the country an awful lot of money?
Yeah.
If we didn't have 18 million different parliaments, you know, we could just have Westminster. That's enough.
Yeah.
That's what most countries do, instead of having devolution, metro mayors, all, you know. Like because with that you've got all the employees, the civil service connected to it. Then you've got all of the staff. You've got the pension pots, and it's like, I'm sorry, but what does it?
What are you doing?
Yes. What has it brought you, really? I mean, anyway,
Well,
but it is
in
ironic that
Wales
they're going to get even more of that
I was
now.
going to say, in Wales, they have tampons in bathrooms for men.
That's exactly
there
right.
you go.
You know.
But no, it's amazing because my old lecturer at university used to say that Tony Blair was a constitutional terrorist for what he did for devolution, and a lot of people predicted this would happen. In what world did you think if you give nationalist parties a parliament, they're not going to pursue it harder than before?
So
I don't get it.
My big question is, are we now going to have tax-raising powers in Wales? Because that is what Plaid Cymru have pushed for a long time. They say that the Barnett formula is not enough. We don't get enough from Westminster. Again, I was listening to, I don't even know his name because I'm sorry, I don't, but on the Today programme this morning, a Plaid gentleman.
Yeah.
I feel like if I focus on this long enough, I'll get it.
Yeah.
It was
We're
definitely a
also on
Welsh
air.
name, like Howell Griffith or something. But it wasn't Howell Griffith.
Was it Jones, Ben?
It was somebody. I'm so sorry. I do apologise, but my brain can't retain enough information at times. But they were talking about they want to basically give all these freebies, and they were like, well, how are you going to pay for it? Well, we've got enough money to pay for it for the first year.
Yeah.
Is what he answered. And he was pushed on this thing, but, you know, it's a 5-year term, and you have been warned by think tanks that there is not the money in the bank to provide all of this sort of extra welfare, extra support, extra handouts. And that's me thinking, OK, interesting, when he's gone, we've totted it up for year one, which to me spells out that what they're going to want to do is have tax-raising powers to get more money in the coffers. And, you know, it's been I've lived and worked in Wales a lot over the course of my life, and it's always been a big talking point in Wales.
It's the difference between an assembly and a parliament. Your ability to... It's actually what makes you a parliament is your ability to raise tax. Yeah, and it was a big thing when Scotland got that. They don't have all of it, but they've got some of those powers. That was a big ceding of power. Once you have the public purse, you've basically got all the power.
Well, this is what's interesting. Are the Welsh people really prepared to find extra taxes being imposed upon them by their new governments that they have voted for? It's an interesting one. I think this is going to play out in a fascinating way. You'll be pleased to know that I, since sitting side by side in the makeup room, I have come up with 6 of our 8 quiz questions. I've got to come up with 2 more before the end of the programme. Or perhaps, actually, there's a good idea. Ooh, should we democratise this? Well, I'll do my own 6 questions, but if you guys want to throw in some extra I'm only going to read out sensible ones. Tech-Op looks like he's about to headbutt the desk.
I was going to say.
Don't you worry, Tech-Op. We'll make this work somehow. But if you want to, quiz tension bed.
It's like Pavlov's dog.
I know. But if you do want to quiz Barnsey this morning, then send your question and the answer, because he hasn't got the screen, but Tech-Up will need the answer to 08444 99 1000 on WhatsApp or 87222 on text. Like to talk before you send your question and answer. And nothing. I want good, sensible trivia based upon the news, OK? That is the format. I don't want, you know, how many jelly beans were manufactured in 1926. No. OK, based on the news then, here we go. What is the name of the now infamous cruise ship that has just docked in Tenerife after passengers contracted hantavirus? We want to know what the name of that woe-begotten cruise ship is. Now arrived at Tenerife.
Did you see the giant one in the Thames and everybody panicked the other day?
The giant cruise ship?
Yeah, there was a giant...
and everyone
thought it was the hantavirus one.
It's actually driving me mad that people keep saying huntavirus. I'm like, Hunter.
Yeah, I want to have a word with whoever names things. And can you pick a normal name?
By the way, I love the fact we've still got a tension bit going on.
Yeah.
But no, I saw this really spooky thing on X the other day. There was this account who calls themselves like fortune teller or soothsayer or something like that. I can't remember what it is. And they had written back in like 2020 or 2019 or something, like a date quite a while ago, and it just said 2021, end of corona, 2026, hantavirus. It's like, whoa. Anyway, that's by the way. The great things you see on social media. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a short break and I'll be giving you the answer to that question just after this.
The Crown is facing its gravest test in decades, and the royal tea from Talk is your front row seat. With royal reputations under pressure and probing questions about public trust, we unpack every twist and revelation with the biggest names in the business. From the throne room at Buckingham Palace to a mansion in Montecito, we follow every royal ripple. Never miss a moment of The Crown in crisis. Subscribe to the Royal Tea from Talk on the app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Tension bed.
Tension bed. Right, what is the name of the ill-fated cruise ship?
Hondius.
Yes, MV Hondius.
Yeah, something like
what
that.
What does MV stand for? Merchant vessel or something?
Probably, yeah.
Merchant, is that tech got merchant vessel? Hey.
Yeah, there you go.
I didn't know I knew that.
I've only ever heard it called the Hondius. I didn't know it had the letters in front of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I went on a little cruise down the Egyptian Nile and that was an MV.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Maybe it might
but
be
I
a
didn't.
thing.
There was no.
Yeah, I don't know.
There was no viruses.
Good.
I mean, after I left and flew back home, some of the passengers did get a bit
is
sick,
it like
but-
what was his name? Carter and Tutankhamun.
See, I just know how. I've lived in the developing world a lot,
Yeah.
and I know how to game the system, which is no fruit, no salad.
Yeah.
Everyone goes, oh well,
Water.
the meat might be a bit dodgy.
No.
I'm like, no, it's cooked.
Yeah.
It is fine.
It's not washed in the water.
Yes, it's don't touch the fruit.
Yeah.
Don't touch the salad.
Yeah, it would just be a thing that you don't have ice in your drink.
Don't have ice in your drink.
Yeah.
And also, one of the best way to kill off a load of bugs aboard is just neck a lot of alcohol.
Well, it's why
Yeah.
gin and tonics
Yeah.
because of was it the tannin?
Quinine for malaria.
Yeah.
Indeed. We got quizzes within
Quizzes
quizzes,
galore.
facts within facts.
It's a meta quiz.
I've just seen some breaking news, which apparently Gordon Brown has been appointed Global Finance Special Envoy. Well, that's going to save Starmer's skin. We can't wait for that.
The guy that sold off all the gold is going to be global finance. We are done for, people. Sorry, I'm just saying. You know, the guy who is responsible for the wreckage of the British economy.
I didn't know we needed a Global Finance Special Envoy.
We do. but
what is that?
Not him.
What does that mean?
I presume he'll be like the go-between between the World Bank, the IMF, because, you know, the IMF has got no money left, so most of Europe is in billions
I
of
know
pounds
what this
of
is.
debt.
This is the markets are going to start freaking out
Yes.
because of all the uncertainty at the top of the Labour Party.
Yeah.
And so Gordon Brown's job will be to go and sort of whisper sweet nothings in the ear of Christine Lagarde and people like that, saying, it's OK, to Moody's, don't junk us. I'm going to make sure that we get the welfare bill through.
It's literally
like
so
that,
he's got a title so he can walk in and out of the Treasury.
Oh, I see.
That's what
Basically,
that
it's
is.
a pass.
Yeah, it's like, but they made Sue Gray that kind of watch where she's envoy to the nations or whatever she was. She's doing a great job, by the way, for the Labour Party, given what we've just seen. And it's just so she can wander around.
MV isn't merchant vessel; it is motor vessel.
Oh, right.
Used in shipping as a prefix to a ship's name, indicating it is powered by an internal combustion engine. We love an internal combustion engine.
Yeah,
not solar.
Zero.
What's it going to be like? Solar vessels will be coming in.
Ed's going to be stood at Dover saying you can't come. No, forget the handlebars, but it's the net zero.
but then Herman will go like, well, actually, maritime law.
Human rights.
It's maritime law, human rights.
Yes.
I was going to say something really wise and I've forgotten what it was. Never mind. We will plough on regardless and the wisdom will hopefully return. Not that I ever had it in the first place. Let us talk about the Conservative Party and how they have fared in these local elections. Because, well, first of all, let's have a listen to Kemi Badenoch, shall we?
We need people to know that hope is coming. The Conservatives have to come back because, my goodness, this country needs us. We are coming back to fight for our high streets. We are coming back to fight for hard-working people. We are coming back to fight for businesses. We are coming back to fight for veterans, for parents, for farmers. We're coming back to stamp out anti-Semitic hatred on our streets. Coming back to deliver a stronger economy. We're coming back to deliver a stronger country. And we are coming back to get Britain working again. Thank you, everyone.
I love the fact that she's like celebrating, like she's won the elections, and Boris Johnson in today's Mail is celebrating as if this is a great Tory triumph. And let's play a little game that she loves to play in Prime Minister's Question, shall we? OK, let's do Kemi's favourite game. So if she was standing there at the dispatch box, we're coming back, we're going to fight for the high street, we're going to fight for the farmers, I'd be like, really? Because let's look at the number of councils that you control. They are now down. Let's look at the number of councillors you have. That is down. Let's look at the number of constituencies you now have in Wales. That is down. Let's look at how many seats you have in Holyrood. That is down. There you go, mate. I'm sorry. Figured it all out for you. It is not a victory. You've not done very well.
I will say, though, just to give a little bit of balance, that they're not dead. No, I mean that as a genuine thing. They've still life in them. That is a fascinating
They're in
bit.
ICU.
Yeah, they're in ICU.
Rigged up to machines and
they've
stuff.
called the priest, but he's stuck on the M25. But this is a really important point, is that the two parties, the Labour and the Conservatives, have not been destroyed. Yes, they've had their butts handed to them in a very profound way, but they have not been completely eviscerated. That is interesting, and I think that is a bit that a lot of people will overlook, because obviously the two insurgent forces have done incredible, but it literally does seem to prove that it is the collapse of the centre to a degree that has led to the rise of the protest movements.
Right.
If anything, this election may have proved that Reform and the Greens are protest
But this
votes.
is interesting, really, because then where do the Tories have to manoeuvre?
They don't.
But exactly.
Yes,
it is stalemate, isn't it? Because in theory, if they're going to get those votes back from Reform, if they, because votes have gone from the Tories to Reform, also to the Liberal Democrats. Maybe there's a few crazies who now vote Green, who knows?
Yeah.
But, logic
Boris
doesn't...
Johnson.
Logic can sometimes defy certain people. But if they were to mainly their hemorrhaging support to Reform, that is patently obvious. That means they're going to have to start, which is what she's trying to do, talk tougher. We're going to leave the ECHR. We're going to, sort out crime. We're going to cut immigration. The problem with this, of course, is voters are going, yeah, but you didn't. The Conservative Party didn't.
It's still the 14 years.
And for years she was like, don't know about leaving the ECHR. Might have to think about that one a little bit longer. And it's like, I'm sorry, but if I was going to go to buy bread, I would go to a bakery. If I was going to go and vote for immigration, I'd vote for Reform and Nigel Farage. You know, it's a crazy idea to go, like, don't vote for the man who's banged on about this for 30 years and been called every name under the sun. Don't trust him on the issue. Trust us, who actually lets millions of people into the country.
Yeah.
They've got nowhere to move.
No, they don't. But the one track they still have to a degree is the economy. For some reason, the Tories still poll relatively well on that issue. I think that's the legacy of the Thatcher government more than anything. I think it's the hangover. But they don't have anywhere to go. So realistically, this is why I always say it's actually Reform's to lose.
Yes.
And this is one of the reasons everyone should be glad that they didn't actually get power in Wales, because that comes with a lot of responsibility. But if you're still still number 2, you're actually playing to Reform's strengths. So this is the thing now. They're going to now be judged as a government power. So if they start to show that they're not very competent, things go awry, councils start to call into mayhem, that old Conservative brand will still have some life in it.
It's like some sort of zombie movie, isn't it?
Well, yeah. But realistically, that's what it is at the moment.
Coming back.
That's what it is. And, if there are these mistakes, if you look at Kent County Council, for example, you've had this incident up in Sutton with one councillor there. This is how the Tories come back. And it's up to Reform to put them down, not, and the Tories to learn that they're not a force anymore.
It was definitely a very interesting season in politics we're living through. Shall we do a few messages before questions? So I've been a bit remiss at this. I've been wanting to say this for a few weeks, says Ben in the Wirral. Is it me? Or does Pete sound like a posh Tyson Fury?
I get Tyson Fury all the time.
I don't even know what Tyson Fury sounds like.
He's a boxer.
Oh, I know who he is, but I don't... I've seen him hit people.
Yeah, it's about at least 3-4 times a day after a clip goes up or whatever, people say, you sound like Tyson Fury.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to...
I get Irish. I do get Irish a lot. I'm not Irish. I've been to Ireland twice in my life.
Weird, that, because people always think I'm Welsh, and I'm like, no, it's West Country.
Do you think it's because... Yeah. I wouldn't even think it's... For you, it might make sense because you've lived there. You pick up the twang, but I've not even been properly.
Interesting.
I don't even have the accent of the town I'm from, so that might be a big factor.
Yeah, but, a lot of people in your neck of the woods have come over from Wales, and I suppose a lot of people in my neck of the woods, you go down Gloucester, you get a lot of Welsh there.
True.
Yeah, we're close by.
Maybe, Northerners turn into Irish when they come to London.
Right, are you ready for question number 2?
Tension bed.
Right. Trump has declared a 3-day ceasefire between Russia and Ukraine to coincide with Russia's Victory Day parade. But what anniversary does that parade mark? All right, on that note, let's go to break.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Detention bed.
All right, here we go. The 3-day ceasefire between Russia and Ukraine that Trump has announced, coincides with Russia's Victory Day parade. They're a bit worried that Ukraine was going to bomb it, apparently. That's why they went, anyway, what anniversary does it mark?
I actually don't know the answer to this one.
Really?
No, I don't know.
You surprise me.
Yeah, to be honest, international stuff not been catching up on because of all the locals. So I'm a bit behind. Yeah.
It's basically the same as VE Day. It's when
I had a feeling it might be. I was trying to think of the time of the year.
8th of May, 1945, yeah. So it's basically... We forget that back in the day in World War II we were mates with Russia.
Yeah, they technically won it because they got to Berlin first.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And then, they turned into that. So there you go.
Yes, well, they're not the old ally they used to be. Let's just put it that way. OK, let us talk about what we've seen from this these elections and how we might project this going forward. Right. Because I think something that has become an exemplar of the potential chaos we might have on the horizon is Birmingham. Oh. Because Birmingham is now... Well, it's gone out of control, basically. Yes. No one controls it. Did they ever? But the voters sort of split. It's fractured in so many different directions that you sort of look and you think, well, Reform haven't got an outright majority. Are they going to get into bed and form a coalition with the pro-Gaza candidates?
No, that's
not so much.
This is why they need
Are they going to form a coalition with...
the Tories?
Yeah, the Greens or the Labour or even...
Can they just? Because I want to see how that would happen.
If they did marry up with the Tories, do they have enough seats in Birmingham? I'm not sure they do.
Off the top of my head, I don't think they do, actually.
No, I don't think they do. So
this is a really good point,
a pickle, basically. Yeah. It is a pickle. And there's a suggestion that where people have looked at the local election results and say this was a general election, but of course not in the entirety of the country went out to vote. But say it was some clever bod with, who's crunched figures, have suggested that would mean Reform would win 284 seats in Parliament, by far the largest single party, but 40 seats shy of a majority, meaning they would have to forge some sort of coalition, which would naturally, one assumes, be after the effect with the Conservative Party. But that is potentially going to be, moving forward, the nature of politics in the United Kingdom.
Welcome to the grey zone, that's what they call it. Because no overall control, no kind of governing party having any majority, that only causes chaos, it causes disruption. It causes usually tax hikes. It is going to be absolutely catastrophic. Welcome to why Europe is in such a mess.
Right. And what's interesting is I was speculating yesterday, and as we weren't hanging out yesterday, may as well re-speculate with you on air now, because I looked at the results in Wales and I said, what's fascinating about Wales is it always used to be a one-party state. Labour knew that their head was on the chopping block, didn't they? Yeah. And they voted to turn Wales to the Detention system, which is a form of proportional representation where you have these big regions and then everyone votes for a party and then they go, right, you got, say there's 10 seats, you got 40% of the votes, so you get 4 seats, you got 20%, you get 2 seats, etc. And they allocate seats like that rather than vote for a candidate, the same way as the European elections. And I wonder if the Labour Party are now going to look at this and speculate about whether or not under a similar system or under a PR system, that would change the nature of who controls Westminster. Because Reform are now doing very well under first past the post. Once upon a time, they'd have been the party to say, no, we need to move away from that system. All parties do this. They always do. But under PR, and this is what I'm wondering about, because you look at what we're now going to have in Wales, which is a sort of coalition between Plaid and Labour the junior party. But that means that they will already be working together to some degree. Yeah. And I just wonder if there's going to be conversations about, well, if we moved Westminster to PR and then the left wing can all prop each other up there. And if you move to that sort of system, it's far easier to play the game of the anybody but Reform vote or anybody but the right wing vote. They've obviously talked about extending the franchise to 16-year-olds in Scotland and England. It's already taking place. No, it's in Scotland, but not in Wales. I think it's en route in Wales.
I think it is on the way.
And so I wonder now that, if at Labour headquarters they're sort of looking, going, The time has come. We're never going to win under first past the post because we're squeezed by the Green Party here. We're squeezed by Reform here. So we're never going to be the party that crosses the line first. But if this was done on a PR basis, we could still get, let's say, 20% of the seats in Parliament, whereas needing to get the 30% to form a majority. I don't know. I don't know whether you have a theory on this, because I always think with, especially the left wing, is be very alive to what they might be planning.
Yeah.
And if they can't win under the current system, they will change the system.
Yeah, this was the plan. It's already happening. It's called the English Devolution Act. It passed and nobody paid attention.
When?
Literally about 3 weeks ago. So it's going to affect mayoral elections first. It's going to start electing these guys. This is why we're having this big reorganisation of local government. It is all a practice for what most of us think will be a move to have a PR system for general elections.
I did not know that. All right, blow me sideways.
Yeah.
Right, I need to know more about this, son.
Yeah. So basically, they've been on about it for a little while. They always do it. It's to make it fairer, to make all votes count.
Because it's the right thing to do.
Because it's the right thing to do. But the one thing is this DeHunt system, if they bring this in, it means that the constituent is no longer the boss of the MP. They're not held accountable. They're held accountable to the party, because the party decide where you sit on the list and whether you get to be one of the top people, or whether you're going to be at the top of the list to get a seat. This is to centralise power whilst giving the idea that you're giving a voter share, back to the electorate. It doesn't work.
I wonder, though, about this system. Good old DeHunt, Mr. Farage knows it well. And it's always proved very helpful to him. But I wonder, so yesterday I was trying to calculate, looking at the different seats halfway through the day, saying, right, this is right wing, this is left wing, what is the split? And I need to do that recalibration, the recalculation. But when I last did it yesterday, right-wing parties were still the majority. If you added together, and I don't know if this is still the case, I'm going to have to get back to my magic calculator, but if you added the votes of Reform and the Tories together, guess what? That actually is bigger than all the left-wing parties together. Yep. And back when I did do the maths, I'm sort of looking through the glass to see if Tekop's doing it, because he's normally very good at, so I thought he was. He's just giving me a little eyebrow raise.
The signs and the signals that we
That's
send.
my boy. That's my boy. He's brilliant. He's going to pop up on my screen there in a minute. Chef's kiss to you, Tekop. But yesterday, when I sort of did the vague maths, it kind of looked like the Brexit split. It was a sort of 52-48. So I wonder if we move to a representative system like that, whether it would actually work.
It wouldn't work out for the Labour Party. This is the thing. It could work for the left, but it will actually not be good for the Labour Party, because they massively underestimated the Greens. The Greens are what we call the very second place. In other words, they have a very strong showing in little pockets around the country, but they don't have a national force that you need for first past the post. For a PR kind of system, they would do very, very well and start to take a big chunk, even bigger than they've got, out of the Labour Party. So their whole plan may actually yet again backfire in their face, because they've underestimated things. The same way that they're backtracking on votes for 16-year-olds, because that vote is all going.
Kids are alt-right.
Yes, but also actually the youth vote for the Labour Party had it's gone to the Greens in a huge way.
Yeah.
So it's quite fair that yet again the Labour Party tried to do something sinister and they can't even do that correctly.
I love it. I love it when
you are right,
poetic justice.
That this is the time now that conversations need to be had. You don't have to be in a pact, but maybe some non-aggression and some little kind of, well, we won't stand here or we won't campaign as hard here.
I think no doubt that whatever is said publicly. And all parties maintain this sort of aura of, we want to do it by ourselves, we're not going to get into bed with anybody else, etc. All parties do that. But without doubt, behind the scenes, there are Conservatives who are now defected and sit in, Reform. Do they think they're not speaking to their old colleagues? That all of a sudden they've wiped their phones.
In the tea rooms.
Exactly. I'm fairly certain that there is... if it comes up. But, all political parties want to win on their own merit first. They're not going to reveal those sorts of things anytime soon.
Also, it would be disastrous for Reform if they did, because it's the whole loyalty vote thing. You can't, you're not a patriot, that kind of argument. You'll blow that clean out the water. They'd sink themselves if they did.
We're going to do a bit of a change of direction after the break, because we're going to talk about the disclosure thing going on in America. I love it.
I knew it.
You knew it was going. You're not going to do that today. We're getting that in after the break. But before that, we still have a quiz question for this
Tension bed.
Attention bed.
It really is like Pavlov's dog.
What is the connection between Kim Kardashian's Met Gala outfit and Kent?
Oh, yeah.
I love the fact that you know that. Of all things.
I hate the fact that I know.
That's why I love you. Right, okay, there you go. Answers on a postcard, please. We will be back just after this.
The Crown is facing its gravest test in decades, and the royalty from Talk is your front row seat. With royal reputations under pressure and probing questions about public trust, we unpack every twist and revelation with the biggest names in the business. From the throne room at Buckingham Palace to a mansion in Montecito, we follow every royal ripple. Never miss a moment of The Crown in crisis. Subscribe to the royalty from Talk on the app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Tension bed. Right, the connection between Kim Kardashian's Met Gala outfit and Kent.
It was spray painted. It was an auto body shop, didn't they? And it was like this thing that she was wearing for the Met Gala.
Yeah, the breastplate.
The breastplate,
yeah. Well done.
It was like a pinky, like an orangey kind of colour.
Yeah, it's sort of
I hate the fact I know this.
Or something.
I hate the fact I know this.
I hate the fact that it exists.
Yes.
Anyway, but I don't hate the fact that aliens might exist. See what I did there?
See, there you go. Oh.
I love, love, love this story. I've been waiting for this, Disclosure Day and all of that. Well, let's just get straight to it and actually talk with a ufologist, Mark Christopher Lee. Welcome to the programme. Now, talk to me, because we've been a bit distracted with local elections in the UK. But over in America, the Department of War has started releasing files publicly, video files, transcripts, so on and so forth, which in theory were classified files that document supposed sightings of unexplained phenomenon. Tell us more. What has been released?
Well, there's hundreds of files, previously unreleased documents from the FBI mainly. And they came out at 1 o'clock UK time yesterday. So it was like, I had the election results, very excited about that. And then this, it was like, wow, going through hundreds of documents to try and find the good stuff. And like the video you're showing now, that's one of the great finds.
Now, what is that thing? Because so if you're listening on the radio, what we're seeing is I don't know who's filming this.
It's the military. It's an 8-pointed star-like object which is making strange movements, and it's very unusual. And people have alluded to, it looks like from the Bible, Ezekiel's wheel within a wheel, and that was Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna, who's pushed for these files to be released. And yeah, there's a lot of good stuff. It's a really good start. I mean, I was going through looking for any UK files because we had a big UFO incident here at Rendlesham Forest, which was actually 2 US air bases.
Right,
so I'm hoping there's going to be files released on that.
I know the case well. It was was it the captain or something, or what, a very senior person on the military base, sort of went into the forest and actually saw scorched ground, saw the craft come down. Fascinating stuff. But we've also learned that when there have been various trips to the moon, astronauts have seen things floating around from the moon's surface as well.
Yeah, there's some really good testimony and evidence from the Apollo missions. And also there's a radio recording from the Gemini mission where they say millions of fragments floating around, and a bogey was identified. And this is 1965. There shouldn't be anything much up there. So what they're seeing has to be coming from somewhere. And it wasn't fragments of ice or anything like that. So, and you got highly trained observers, astronauts. So that it's really interesting. Why
now? Why has this stuff been thus far classified and covered up? And also, my biggest question is, why aren't more people excited about this? To me, this is life-changing. This should be like, the biggest story across the whole world. Guess what? Look at this actual footage of stuff we can't explain in the sky. Are we alone? And people are just like, eh. And I don't understand the lack of enthusiasm. I mean, when I think people, not us. Not us.
You are right, me too. And it's we could be leading up to a life-changing moment where President Trump makes a speech that says, we are not alone, here's the evidence. And that's what I think is what we're leading up to. This is just the first tranche of files. And Congressman Tim Burchett has already said there's holy crap moments yet to come, which will change our way of thinking. So will there be a speech? Will we be told officially that we are not alone? That's what I'm looking for.
I mean, in terms of what are we expecting to come? Because I actually had Tim Burchett on the show last week, and as someone who sort of follows this stuff quite enthusiastically, it's very clear that there has been a whole lot of trepidation, internal control, possibly from the private sector, about releasing certain information. We've had that strange series of deaths from people over in America connected to NASA, connected to jet propulsion research, connected to UAP observations. We need that explained as well. I mean, as somebody who really studies this field, what are they hiding from us? What might we learn? Are we going to get the whole truth?
I'm hoping so, but I think it might be being controlled, like you said, by private companies that are using this technology that they've recovered from downed UFOs, for their own benefit. And that's the issue we've got. And it's because it's private sector, it's not, covered by the Freedom of Information Act, for instance, and they can keep it compartmentalized so that the public can never gain access to it. And that's what I'm worried about. But I think it brings a bigger question about what we're doing here in the UK. It's still not taken seriously. I get contacted every week by pilots, by military personnel, by serving police officers that have, seen things they can't identify with conventional, methods. What are they? But they're afraid of going public and putting on record because the ridicule that they will face in their careers.
So we need to create. It's crazy that people find this such a stigma, because the idea when you think that planet Earth is like even our galaxy is but a grain of sand on, desert upon desert in infinity. The idea that, that's it, it just stops with us, to me actually seems like the more absurd proposition. But do you think there's a chance that, when we start analysing some of these videos, that some of them will be explained? That it's like, well, actually, that thing there is reflected light, and it was actually the glow from a satellite, and this was, I don't know, something or the other.
I think some of them already have. The 8-pointed star we saw earlier, some people have suggested that is a parachute flare recorded in infrared, possibly. It still looks amazing, but I think a lot of them can be explained. But some of them can't. There's an interesting one of an orb which is going through a windmill field, with a field full of windmills, and it's making these really unusual maneuvers and not hitting anything. And it's like, wow, what is this? And the other interesting thing I found in the files is there's so many coming from the Middle East, from Iraq, Iran, Syria, and this is the birthplace of civilization. Is this a coincidence? I don't know.
Oh, Oh, it's so fascinating. Mark, I'm going to have to say goodbye to you today, but I have a feeling we're going to be catching up on a weekly basis from now on. So when the producer messages, be ready. I love this topic. I just love it.
Yeah, on that last point, I would also argue that it's also the birthplace of the most drones.
Yeah.
I mean, that is more than likely what a lot of this probably is, and that's why they're holding on to it. I'm sorry. I do agree that statistically...
Doesn't explain Foo Fighters in the Second World War.
But it was a very good... They are a very good band, I'll give them that.
By the way, ladies and gentlemen, Foo Fighters were these little orby things that used to fly around fighter jets that were observed.
Don't get me wrong, the evidence is interesting, and it's definitely something we should be talking about, but... My rational brain kicks in, and I think that actually, even if it is military kind of stuff, it's still going to be interesting.
I know what you're trying to do. Quick. Detention bed. Right, it's just been Welsh, Scottish and English local elections following their uncancellation, but what percentage of the country went to the polls? As in not turnout, but how much of the country was eligible or were able to participate in elections? Because not all of us had elections in our neck of the woods, so I want to know what percentage of the country did have elections. Right, there we go. Coming up after the break, more political chat with Alex Wilson from Reform and those answers.
Just breaking news in the last couple of moments. Extraordinary news. Not just that the police have arrived at the Sandringham estate where Prince Andrew, as was now Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, is currently living since being thrown out of the Windsor estate. The police have arrested Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. It's an extraordinary revelation and development on this story involving the Epstein files and all the allegations that have been swirling around about Andrew over the many years, from Virginia Giuffre, now sadly deceased, and since then, and certainly what's been contained in the Epstein files as released in the last few weeks. But the police have arrived at Sandringham estate this morning, where Andrew has made his new home. It's his 66th birthday today. What a birthday present that is. He has been arrested by the police. Of course, the brother of the current king, the second son of our late Queen Elizabeth. This is an extraordinary development. Those of us who've been talking an awful lot about establishment cover-ups and lack of, should we say, interest by the police in what are very, very serious allegations against Andrew. Perhaps pleased that that pressure has finally been put on the police, and they have done the job of actually looking into these issues seriously. Must bear in mind, of course, that the Prince has not been charged with any crime at this point, and he has always denied any wrongdoing in relation to any of the allegations about him. We'll give you more on that. We'll talk to you about that throughout the show, but I'm just being told that the arrest has been on suspicion of misconduct in public office. This, of course, relates to those Epstein file allegations and the documents that, if they are true, would suggest that he had, it is alleged, passed on basically what was confidential government information when he was the UK trade envoy for this country for 10 years to Jeffrey Epstein for Jeffrey Epstein's financial gain.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Detention bed. So I was just quickly messaging Faith. I've got to come up with another question. There you go. But anyway, this question. So it's just been, as you know, the elections in Wales and in Scotland and various local elections around England. But what I was asking is not turnouts, but what percentage of the country had elections? What percentage of the country were invited to go to the ballot box?
I think it's about 28%.
Apparently, it's 60 to 65%.
Really?
Roughly 30 million out of 46 to 48 million registered voters had elections to participate in.
Out of registered voters. I wonder if, that would make sense, actually, if you think about it.
I thought it was only about 20%, but I didn't. Maybe it's 20% in England.
I think it's actually 20% of the entire population, not of registered voters. Yeah.
So, because I want to do it more by landmass, if you will. So therefore not registered voters, but by places, constituencies.
Yeah.
So apparently around 2/3, let's call it, 60 to 65%.
Turnout is an interesting thing if you wanted to talk about that, actually, because
it went up.
Yes, that is the interesting bit. Because normally these
Why is that interesting?
Because it shows you that this is a voter base that is motivated and turned out at local elections, which are usually quite low. Yes. And often it's the kind of the anoraks of the extremes. They often participate in local government.
Well, this is the thing. It's what they call in the business, if you've ever done election campaigns, GOTV.
Yes.
Get out the vote. Which is, a lot of people might say, well, this is kind of what really hampered the Conservatives in the last election. But people was like, well, I normally vote Conservative, but I don't want to this time. But therefore, I'm not going to vote for anybody else. And yet, motivation to vote for change, it's why I think in many respects people underestimated Brexit during the referendum campaign, because when people want something done, when they want change, that gets them out of their houses and down to the polling station. Voting for the status quo isn't as motivating a factor, essentially. So do you think that has actually helped in many respects, reform?
It has, because it's helped because it's a punishment vote. It's helped reform because they're the ones that are being used as the tool to punish the establishment.
But is it anyway? Is this still the protest vote and the tool to punish the establishment, or is it the case that people, a bit like, was Brexit a punishment vote, or were people just saying we want something different and we've got an opportunity because there's something different now on offer?
Honestly, I think we could only answer that the next time round when reformed councils come under. They get re-elected. We don't know the answer to that question until they get re-elected. That's the big question. So everyone keeps saying it's about, they've proven they've got institutional power. No, they've proven they're a protest group. Now, the next time round, if they could convert this into further gains because they've been shown to be able to control things and they're a good, safe pair of hands, that is how you prove whether you've got institutional power.
Wow, do you know what is a perfect little occurrence? The fact that now we can be joined by Alex Wilson, who is Reform's London Assembly member. Alex, thank you for coming on the programme. Pete makes an important point here, which is it's easy when you've not been incumbent, so people can't blame you for stuff, can they? They can't turn around and go, well, the Tories failed. 15 years in government, you failed to deliver. The Labour Party's been in for 2 years, you failed to deliver. So your copybook, therefore, is untarnished, so to speak. But, of course, things might now change. Now you actually control certain councils.
Yeah, firstly, can I say, I really like that term punishment vote, which you've just been talking about. Not that before. We will talk protest votes, but no, punishment vote, excellent term. I think it does sum up a lot of the motivation for why people have taken that opportunity to kick out Labour councillors and kick out Tory councillors last year as well, because the failure of those parties in government nationally. But moving on to our record, there are places in the country where we do have a record in government, having taken those councils last year. And if you look at how people voted in those parts of Staffordshire and Worcestershire, which had council elections for the districts this year on Thursday, you saw us doing very well in Tamworth, Newcastle under Lyme, Redditch. So those places, they already had an experience of having a reformed county council, and they backed that up by voting for their district councils to be reformed as well. So I think there is starting to be an element of that. And you can see from the fact that our council tax rises in this year's round of budgets was the lowest average of any party. And I think people reflected well on that on the doorstep and in those areas that had the opportunity to pass judgment on us. That is the thing.
What else can people expect now from reform local authorities? Because I feel like ahead of these elections, everyone was discussing national issues. People were voting on national issues. Blooming Zach Polanski turned around and basically framed all of this around Gaza, for crying out loud. Nothing to do. Gaza's got nothing to do with what goes on, down your local high street. So I feel like this is becoming more typical in politics now. Let's not bother asking people what's in their manifesto. But I'm still interested, by the way. So if people have now voted in Reform and Reform are running their local councils, what are Reform going to do that is markedly different from their predecessors?
The first thing is trying to keep costs down and manage the budgets far more efficiently. That's why we had the lowest council tax rises in the places that are already running. And we've been doing things like renegotiating waste contracts, using advanced technology to fill in potholes more quickly and more cost effectively, that kind of stuff, which isn't that sexy really, but it's really important because it's those kind of bread and butter things that will make a difference to how councils are run and how people's lives are improved on a daily basis. So that's what we get from reform councils, a lot better value for money, and try and be a lot closer to what residents' priorities are, and absolutely not talking about Gaza, because Gaza is these elections. It should have been. Unfortunately, the Greens have weaponised it, but it's not something that people should be really too worried about.
So this is essentially sort of, we were promised, weren't we, Doge, essentially, or Dolge as it became known. And at one point it was Zia Youssef running it, then it wasn't, then it was Richard Tice overseeing it, I think. We haven't really, I must suggest, heard much more about it. I haven't heard Reform shouting from the rooftops, we have identified all of these, if you are doing it, fantastic, but I don't think you're really giving us enough information of what you found, what you've cut, how significant it is, what the percentage is, because the problem is a lot of reform councils have had to put up council tax. They can turn around and say, well, not as much as if it wasn't us. But where are these huge rafts of savings? Is it taking a while? Are they there?
Well, in the last year alone, then our councils have identified about £700 million worth of savings. So it's a process, that's a good start, and we'll continue building on that. But very much ties in with that mindset of wanting to spend your money more wisely, because we have to treat taxpayers' money as if it's our own. And that's the difference between those on the right of politics, those on the left of politics, who just think spend public money, taxpayers' money, like it's going in fashion. We think that's outrageous. It's got to be done more, and that's what we've seen as a result of the elections. But these elections have been fantastic success for us as a party, a huge forward for us in our journey. There's still sort of a handful of us to come in, but already gained 14 councils and nearly 1,500 councillors. A lot of the talk has been about how catastrophic these elections have been for Labour, and they absolutely have been. But let's also not forget it's been bad for the Tories as well. This is the 5th year in a row that the Conservatives have lost, made a loss of councils and seats. That they didn't even do at the end of the John Major government. So this is a really worse period for them electorally than even the mid to late 90s. And if you look at how the votes were cast, look at Essex in particular, there's 5 shadow cabinet members, all of whom would lose their seats to Reform if there was a general election tomorrow. Kemi Badenoch, Priti Patel, James Cleverly, Alex Burghardt, Richard Holden, all of them lost their seats to Reform had that been a general election on the day.
We've got a slightly in and out audio with you, Alex, can I just say? So apologies if you're listening there and you're missing the odd word. I'm going to have a chit-chat with Peter and see if we can sort of figure out what the glitch is here, because especially when you're radio, good quality audio matters. But, I'm looking right now, actually, at the number of English councillors. And yes, it's been a bit of a bloodbath for Labour. And yes, it's been great wins for Reform. But how much has the complexion of the country actually changed, Pete? Are we now seeing radical sweeps of turquoise everywhere?
No, is the answer to that. Because that has actually been Reform's rather smart strategy. That's why they've been able to win so well. They wanted the momentum and they wanted the big number. That is why they targeted certain constituencies, certain wards and council areas very smartly so that they could actually get the wins. They've not really yet to be tested in Remain-heavy areas. They seem to win obviously in the Brexit heartlands, obviously the Red Wall, or like you look at Tameside, look at places like Newcastle under Lyme, these were big Brexity areas, so of course they've gone to Reform. When you start to look elsewhere around the country, they haven't quite got that hook in, but they haven't put the resources in to actually try it, to actually really push. If you look where the people have actually been campaigning, people like Richard Tice or Nigel Farage, they have been, again, key constituencies where they know that they have a strong base already. The Conservative base does not exist anymore. That's the really important point, and that's why they've been able to get such the large number. Again, I'm not taking it away from Reform. It's actually, this is exactly what they wanted, and it's not quite the national kind of we've got the country, because they don't.
It's, it is, we need to at some point as well talk about the Green Party. We're going to especially focus on this at 11:30 when we're joined by Philip Kisserly from the New Culture Forum, because this is a cultural shift, isn't it? And what is interesting now is, I can't remember who said it the other day, but this is no longer left versus right economically. You know, it's not big state versus small state. What we have now in politics is essentially a big cultural battle for the heart of the nation. What are we? Who are we? Who do we put first? Like I said, this has happened across the Western world. We can go back to Alex, actually, because I think we've managed to de-glitch the audio. Fingers crossed that is the case. If not, we'll just blame it on China, right? It's definitely them spying. But I was just saying to Peter there that, you know, what's gone on? We were talking there about doging councils. We're talking about economic savings. But so much of what's gone on politically in the Western world, whether you're looking at Make America Great Again, America First, whether you're looking at the rise of the AFD in Germany or the PVV in the Netherlands or Rassemblement in France, for example. And I noticed Jordan Bardella has put out a big post congratulating Reform and Nigel on X. But what we're looking at is an extension of the culture wars. It is a battle for identity. It is about globalisation. It is about immigration. So how can you take those calls, the clarion calls, so to speak, from the voter and translate that at local level?
Well, it's about sticking up for our local communities and not being taken for granted and ridden roughshod over. And it's an important part of the context that people are facing. We have an immigration crisis, illegal migration off the scale, 200,000 boat crossings since, I think, 2018, and people are fed up with the failure of both the main parties in government to tackle this problem, and that's why migrant centres being put in places like Crowborough. That's why we've got the hotels crisis, and people are fed up with paying for it. People are fed up with it being put in their community without proper consultation, without proper warning, without knowing who these people are, and without centres being secured. And to have all these undocumented men of fighting age wandering around aimlessly in trouble, and nobody can do anything to quit. And that's what people are fed up, and they've got to deal with it.
Well, I'm afraid, Alex, we still have a bit of an audio glitch, so I'm going to love you and leave you if you don't mind, because it's that little bit too much in and out, and it's just it will be a bit difficult for people to follow. But from what Alex was saying there, he was talking about, you know, how this sort of cultural, this identity crisis can be translated into policies at local level, and he talks about, you know, pushing back against things such as migrant basic. Now, it brings me on to the announcement from Zia Youssef about, if you voted for the Green Party, guess what, we're going to deliberately build detention centres in your constituencies. Now, on some level, I think this was quite clever, because it actually made that policy land in terms of people remember it. He'd done a big speech about Islam, about things he might do as, you know, Home Secretary before in a press conference. Again, I don't think it really landed much. People don't remember the details of it. At least this one, people are like, oh wow, Reform are going to build detention centres because of that twist at the end. Except I have a big problem with the twist.
Yes.
On a threefold problem. One is that I don't believe that you should spite a constituency. If 30% of people voted Green, 70% didn't, that doesn't seem fair. Secondly, when we talk about detention centres, these people aren't roaming around. They're not out there going down the cafes and stalking women on Bournemouth Beach. They're locked up. So it's a very different proposition. Which, if I was, you know, if someone said to me, oh, we're going to build in the middle of, you know, I live in the countryside, middle of nowhere, there's going to be a massive detention centre with 20,000 people all locked in there so they can be deported, I'll be like, get in. Do you know what I mean? Because I want to see that happen. Now, the third-fold issue I have with this is the people who don't want to see that happen, the people who are like, oh, the baby Stockholm's evil, oh, it's cruel to lock these men up in detention centres, they should be welcomed with red carpets and all the rest of it, are the Green authorities. And so by saying we're going to stick it in your area, and having said to Alex Wilson there, what would you do? Well, we would push back against those things in our constituencies. We would use the tools possible to prevent that from happening. Who are going to be motivated to try and do judicial reviews against detention centres, you know, find tricks of planning permission to prevent them being built, to then glue themselves to the, you know, sites where the diggers are going to come in? It is the Greens.
Yes.
Whereas if Reform are in government and they control Essex Council and they turn around and go, we're building a massive detention centre in this industrial wasteland in the heart of Essex, the council are probably going to go, tick, yes, fine, we're not going to stand in your way. So I think it defies logic.
It does. They always say don't poke the bear. This policy is literally taking a cricket bat to the bear's head, because they, like you said, this is going to be the biggest motivator, not only for people to vote against Reform UK if you're so inclined, but also, like you said, if they do get into power, the judicial reviews, the mountains of lawyers that are already probably filing paperwork to stop this from happening. This is not smart policy. It's good campaigning because it gets people out to vote. It's not smart policy.
Right. I have a feeling that it's going to be one of those announcements that won't come to pass if Reform ever get into power. They're not going to sit there and look at the country and go, right, let's build detention centres in Brighton and in, central Manchester, in Gorton and Denton. I don't think it's going. It can't work like that.
Also, if they end up in coalition, or you're putting them in the smaller party, whoever it might be, you're putting one in their constituency because they're not going to like that. How to break up your coalition? It's like snap of the fingers.
At the end of the day, these things have to be built where it can be built, where there's available space, where it is apt to do so, where it's affordable. Quickly. You're not going to be sitting there going, ha, I've got a cunning plan, wringing your fingers and pointing at all the sort of green voting areas and going, right, let's focus here. That to me is it actually defies logic when you drill down into it.
Also, it would slow it down massively because we actually need these things like yesterday. So why would you do that? But also, I do think it would actually put off a lot of voters who are semi on board with reform because it makes them look spiteful. It makes them look petty and a bit childish. And I think that is a risk because that's the voter base they now need.
At the same time, just ahead of those local elections, everyone's talking about reform building detention centres. Yeah. And maybe if they hadn't put that little twist at the end, it wouldn't have had the same sort of traction. It wouldn't have spread as widely. So I can see the sort of political
for a campaign. Yeah, for a campaign, it's a great thing to do. But I think you might be punished at a general election for that kind of policy.
We will see. Thing is, most journalists today will forget it's ever been said, won't they? They're not sharp.
Not with. Don't forget, it's different rules for Reform UK.
That's true, actually.
There's a big long list of everything that Nigel says.
Oh, yeah, they want members going all the way back to Nigel's playground days.
Yes, exactly.
So, yeah, that's a very good point. Well made. I want to do a few messages before we go on to the next question. There's so many messages coming in, and I've been sort of... Whenever you see me, eyes down here, it's because I'm reading my screens. And just brilliant messages, especially on aliens, can I just say? That's really got tongues wagging. I love it. But it's a mixture. It's a smorgasbord. So Margaret says, many years ago, before the Iranian Revolution, I lived in the wonderful country of Iran. If you'd seen the fantastic carvings inside of the mountains, it'd make you believe we're not alone. What carvings in what mountains in Iran?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
Some Tech-Op?
So poor Tech-Op, I can see smoke coming out of his ears where he's still sort of crunching local election numbers. I was like, use AI. Put the calculator down, Tech-Op, before you have an aneurysm. We love Tech-Op. But while you're at it, once you finish crunching those election numbers, get us some carvings in mountains in Iran, would you? Thanks, love. Nikki Register says, just switched on earlier and heard a barnstorming speech, which I assumed was reform. In fact, it was Kemi spouting all of the policies that reform have been pushing for years. Pathetic.
No.
This is what we sort of said. Well, they haven't been pushing for years, but this is what we sort of said about the Conservatives being in stalemate.
Yeah. It's also the fact that reform policies are Conservative policies because it's a Conservative agenda. So, yeah, it's not like this idea that, there's the Tories have been spouting left-wing stuff doesn't make any sense. But, Kemi's going to have to play into that narrative, but she's going to have to start delivering it and actually mean it. And I think that's, like you said, they don't have a lane at the moment.
Yeah.
But I still think they're on the naughty step. I think they're still on the naughty step.
Oh, yeah, it's going to take a while for them to come off that naughty step.
But again, five-party politics now. It's,
what happened to Super Nanny? Anyway, so it's a sort of random thought.
A question.
By the way, TAC Boston, thank you, Tech-Op, is the site with a series of large rock reliefs in Kermanshah, Iran, carved around the 4th century during the Sasanian era. Gonna have to Google that one. I need some eyes on those things. I love stuff like that. There's my next holiday. Probably not.
Probably not, no.
Not going there. Don't want to end up in prison. John has messaged all in giant capital letters. Is that you, Donald? Why is it so hard for you to believe that the vast expanse of the universe was created for mankind by God? There are no little green chaps out there. Well, if there were, because I'm a Christian, God also made them.
Yeah.
Just saying.
There might be blue ones, so you might be right, there might not be green ones, but there could be blue ones.
I don't, yeah. Who knows? But King of the Universe, God created all of it, right? Yeah. So to me, I don't see how the apparently pastors and stuff in America have been pre-briefed on, well, no one's going to be a Christian when they know the truth. And I'm like, why? The Bible doesn't say, by the way, there is nothing beyond planet Earth.
I think it's the other way around, actually.
Yeah.
I would say it's a great motivator for people to turn to religion. It's like a war. It's always good for the Church of England. People always flock whenever there's something that they don't know or understand. So the congregations tend to go up.
Yeah. And even then, when we were talking earlier, we talked about Ezekiel's wheels within wheels, didn't we? Morning, Alex and co. The USA, as of December, are bringing back a lottery-type system for young men 18 to 25 years old. There are also many of the EU countries doing the same, if not take them straight into training. So we're talking about conscriptions here. So my question is that if the UK adopt a lot of EU practices, because we are sort of, you know, getting ever cosier, may we also have to adopt this policy? Thoughts? Asks Jeff. At this stage, no. I don't. I think that would still be in the competence of a state. We're not a member state of Europe. They couldn't impose it upon us. But we have heard Rishi Sunak was doing it.
Yeah.
We're still hearing defence chiefs talking now about the idea of something like conscription or national service or increasing volunteers for the armed force. Basically, we don't have much of an armed force anymore, so we've got to get people from somewhere.
I think we can fit the entire active personnel in Wembley Stadium. I'm sure I've read that somewhere. I'm not sure that's correct. I've read that. But
I do often hear there's more sort of Muslim men of fighting age than there are armed forces or something as well.
The one thing I'd like us to adopt from Europe is maybe, you know, private healthcare. Maybe we could adopt that one. Most countries in the EU actually have a private system. We don't. That would be quite nice. So we have a, you know, somewhere if you're unwell, you can go and get healed.
A couple of detention centres. I hope reform draws straws to decide whether detention centres will go. It doesn't matter where they are. People are invaders that need to leave. Optics doesn't matter on this. Functionality does. Hi, Alex. Why is it so hard to build a detention centre? If you really compare it with Amazon warehouses, they seem to be able to throw massive buildings with massive outer areas up in any industrial estate. Well, I always say this about if you go to these self-storage places, underground labyrinthine caverns of air-conditioned rooms with electricity. I'm like, could you...
Yeah, well, our local councils aren't going to say no to Amazon because it's money, it's jobs, and it looks like they're doing something. They are going to say no if it's detention centres and migrants, but it brings all the other problems.
There we are. There. Exactly. So, right, we are going to come back to messages. Lots more to read out, especially on my good friend, the aliens. So we're going to do more of those after the break. If you want to get in touch with the show, if you want to have a chit-chat with Barnsley and I on the blower, now is the time to dial this number, 03444 99 1000. Tommy Tiptoes is poised and ready and waiting to take your call and take down your details. And 87222 is the number if you want to send a text message, write the word talk before you text. You can also send a WhatsApp or leave a voice note on 03444 99 1000. OK, right. Are you ready?
Tension bed.
The next question, we were talking about her earlier. Eluned Morgan, the First Minister of Wales, has just lost her seat. My question is, what was that seat?
Oh, I knew
Yeah, I didn't even know. Someone out there, some boffin who lives in that constituency is going to know. But what is the name of the constituency that is no longer under the control of Welsh Labour, that was the seat that was held by the now former First Minister, Eluned Morgan? We're going to give you that answer and hopefully speak to some of you chaps just after this.
The Crown is facing its gravest test in decades, and the royalty from Talk is your front row seat. With royal reputations under pressure and probing questions about public trust, we unpack every twist and revelation with the biggest names in the business. From the throne room at Buckingham Palace to a mansion in Montecito, we follow every royal ripple. Never miss a moment of The Crown in crisis. Subscribe to the royalty from Talk on the app or wherever you get your podcasts.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Detention bed. Right, the name of the constituency that was once the seat of Ellen Ed Morgan, now former First Minister of Wales, who has just been ousted.
Yeah, I have no idea, but I imagine it's got a lot of consonants in it. No idea.
Is Ceredigion Penfro.
There was no way I was doing that. I mean, I couldn't even begin to spell that.
Okay, where is Ceredigion?
No idea. Well,
Is it
in Wales, obviously. I knew that. Well, given that where's she Baroness for, the other side of the country?
I've never understood why we know so much more about Scotland than Wales. I always think Wales aren't good enough at selling themselves on the international stage. It's like everyone around the world knows Scotland. I think it's everyone around the world knows Ireland, right? Like, oh yeah, Scotland, Braveheart, kilts, whiskey, haggis, and then everyone knows Ireland because it's St Patrick's Day, Guinness. But seriously, when I lived in Wales and I'd go to other countries, where are you from? Well, not where are you from? Where are you living? I live in Wales. People just sort of go, what's that then?
Yeah, it's probably because they didn't have much of a nationalist movement compared to the Scottish historically. It's always been England and Wales in our legal system. It's always kind of Prince Charles was the Prince of Wales. They've been inextricably linked with England much more than Scotland and Northern Ireland.
I think Wales is such an easy sell. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. The fact I think that the Labour Party have been in control for so long, anything, whatever happened, it's not really.
I mean, internationally, also, I think Wales is such an easy sell.
They have the dragon on the flag.
It's like you've got the coolest flag in the world, basically. Like, beat that. You've got a crazy language, which sounds like something from Lord of the Rings. Yeah. Your landscape looks like something from Lord of the Rings. It is beautiful in Wales. It is stunning. You've got all the beautiful old myths and legends, King Arthur, all of that stuff, and some of the finest meat on earth in the form of Welsh lamb. And in terms of cuisine, lava bread. Yeah. Which is great. It's good stuff. Yeah. I just think Wales is one of the most exceptional places on planet Earth, and yet most people around the world don't know this.
Maybe it's because they've had the Labour Party in charge.
Sort out your tourist board.
Yeah, exactly, because they've had the Labour Party in charge.
Because you've got Port Merion. Have you ever seen that?
Yes.
That gaff. Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah, I've got to say, I've been to Wales quite a few times, actually.
Beautiful beaches.
Yeah, beautiful.
They've got this waterfall, Scudaera, in Brecon. See, I've got my little Welsh accents out there.
There we go.
I can do it. I can talk the talk. Where they actually fly Japanese actors, some ninja movies, because you can walk behind this waterfall. And they do all their scenes behind this waterfall in Wales. Wow. See? I'm like, lot to be sold. Lot to be sold.
I've done Snowdon. Because I stupidly did the Three Peaks when I was at university.
Bonus question, what is the Welsh name for Snowdon?
Oh, something... I have no idea.
No, I can't remember. It's begins with E. Yeah. We don't know. Right, OK, let us get on with messages, but of course there's so much to cover. They should put detention centres at Scarpa Flow. Concrete pads already there. Good enough for the Royal Navy, when we had one, says Linda in Cumbria. I can't see immigration centres holding 20,000 plus immigrants. You wouldn't have the wherewithal to control the population. Our prisons only have a max of 1,500 prisoners. Does anyone remember the UFO orbs flying around Concorde mid-flight about 40 years ago? Never explained.
Orbs seem to be very common.
I love the orbs.
Yeah,
I want to see them. Yeah, not
wasn't the one that they disabled some missiles in the middle of the Cuban Missile Crisis?
Right, yeah. Apparently they like knocking about near nuclear weapons. You spend too much time with me. Alex, I once read that people who don't believe in other life in the universe could be compared to someone taking a teaspoon of water from the ocean and declaring that there are no sharks in that sample.
That is a very good phrase.
Park. Brilliant analogy. Yeah. And then this is where people start getting funny. I love you guys. You do put a smile on my face. Did your guest say that it was Congresswoman Luna pushing for the release of the UFO files? What a coincidence.
Yeah.
I know,
it's an inside job. It's always been the moon. It's always been the moon.
Yeah, the moon's big plan to take over Earth.
Yeah.
And this is brilliant. Good morning, Alex. Just imagine if life is found elsewhere in space. Miss Universe will have a completely different slant.
Yeah. Maybe there'll be universal rights, not human rights anymore.
There we go. Yeah. And are we ready for our next break already? Is that blimey?
Wow.
Because we're really? Sort of chewing up the time here. But here we go. It's an aliens-based question, actually. Right. You'll be pleased to know. Detention bed. America has started releasing its so-called UFO files. If the UK did the same per capita, Where would we find the most unexplained observations?
Oh, yeah.
So, if you did it on the whole, it's London, because there's Brazilians of people in London and lots of light things in the sky from airports and stuff. So you're like, yeah, that reads. But no, I want to know per capita. Unusually, where have been the most UFO sightings in the United Kingdom? There we go. All right, on that note, let us take a short break, and then coming up after the break, we're going to be talking with the brilliant Philip Kisserly about the cultural impacts of these local elections and what the Labour Party are already doing today with some breaking news about certain appointments they are making to try and win back the hearts of the voters. That's coming up just after this.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Oh.
Detention bed. All right, now this is kind of beautiful. It thematically fits in with everything we've sort of been discussing today, which is if the UK were to disclose its own UFO files, where might we find have been the site of the most unexplained observations? We're talking per capita.
I went Wiltshire. It's Salisbury way.
Right, near Porton Down.
Porton Down.
Yes, where the aliens like to hang out. Absolutely not, though.
Is it not?
It is not.
Is it up in Scotland, right? Or in Wales?
You would think there have been some big sightings
I'm
in
just thinking where
Scotland.
it's large.
Calveen was the site of one, but it is not Scotland.
Oh.
But it was.
Wales?
Yes.
Oh, really?
But where in Wales? It's not Ceredigion. Actually, it might be Ceredigion, because we still don't know where Ceredigion is, do we? So it could well be.
I don't... What about a Snowdonia away? Like, I don't really know.
Aliens love mountains. No, Llandudno.
Oh, is it really?
Yes.
Oh.
Apparently. There we go. That's where...
So there you go. It was something
things.
Wales else could have promoted.
Exactly. Come here to spot UFOs.
UFO spotting.
Dragon flag, Welsh cakes, lava bread, beautiful
UFOs.
Landscape, UFOs, and a crazy language. I mean, I think Wales is beguiling.
You as a person, you as a kind of country.
Maybe this is why people think I'm Welsh. I've got the surname Phillips. I love Wales. I mean, basically, just take me now. I'll be your First Minister. I'll sort things out for you. Getting rid of it. Getting rid of the whole blooming Senedd.
Well, you did it when you were the EU Parliament. You made yourself...
I know. You send me somewhere and just after it disappears. It's great. Next off, I'll go to the UN. Right, we've got some breaking news about... I was going to say our favourite boat, MV Hondius. It's not our favourite boat. I've now just called it Dirty Boat. That's what I'm just paraphrasing now. So Dirty Boat. The MV Hondius cruise ship has it's floating around, making its way towards Tenerife after Cape Verde went, don't stop here. Don't try and get off. But it's expected to dock between 4 a.m. and 6 a.m. local time tomorrow. Now, King Tedros from the WHO, Tedros the head of the WHO, he's got a tough surname, multi-syllabic surname. It sort of sounds like Gabra Selassie, but it isn't.
It's not, yeah.
But Tedros,
I know what you mean.
from the WHO, is on his way also to the Canary Islands.
I'm so sorry.
They're not really being very...
Cooperative.
I don't really blame them, but from what I can tell, the Health Minister, Monica Garcia, has been or is still at the moment currently doing a big press conference. They're saying that the risk of transmission to the general public is extremely low. Well, it would be, because they've basically said, don't get off the boat. Leave the dead bodies on the boat. We will take the Spanish citizens first, or perhaps only. And then apparently it's a Dirty Boat is then going to go to the Netherlands for disinfection. No one wants the boat.
No one wants the boat,
Poor
which
boat.
makes me think, they might try to blow up the boat.
What, with people? People
No,
get off the
no,
boat.
but they'll get the people off, but they won't want it to dock anywhere. So I have a feeling the common sense thing to do is not to have it dock anywhere and let it sink to the bottom of the ocean.
A lot. Wow. Yeah.
Would that not make more sense?
With the orbs.
Yeah, but
I'm
no expert in the field. But for me, if nobody wants it, and it happens to be a boat in the middle of the sea and the ocean, you can go down.
That's true. I mean, do you know, it's interesting with this hantavirus thing, because what we're told is that, you know, the transmission is extremely low. It's not very transmissible, like a respiratory infection. But the deadliness of it is about 40% fatality rate or something. But what I've noticed, I'm not freaking out about this thing. I was worried when the pandemic started in China. That actually gave me the EBGBs. This one I'm not freaking out, but it's getting a lot of...
See, I was the other way around. I'm not really fussed about this one because, again, it's on a boat and it's in the ocean and I'm not anywhere near it.
Boat ain't going to get like a dock, apparently.
Yeah, but
let us see.
I don't know. It was interesting that the WHO have had to stress so many times that this is not the new COVID. I mean, that yesterday, one of the women, I watched a press conference and she was like screaming into a television camera, "It's not COVID, stop comparing it to COVID." And I think the media has to be a lot more grown up and sensible than it is, because certain places have lost their minds over this. There's already kind of, you know, the graphics teams at every news studio has loved this. They get to do all this stuff again.
Oh, it fear sells, doesn't it? Let us talk to you. We will give you updates about MV... what's it called? Hondius and Dirty Boat and its passengers as we learn more. Right. Okay, let us welcome to the show Philip Kisserly, Senior Fellow at the New Culture Forum. Great to have you. First, let's just actually touch on MV Hondius and what's going on here, because you were a big critic of the way things were done during the pandemic. We're seeing a big press conference that's just finished over in Spain, talking about the fact that MV Hondius is due to go to Tenerife, and it seems to me they're saying we don't want the deceased, we're not going to take the bodies from the boat. I think there's one body on the boat. We're going to allow Spanish passengers off, but seemingly not much else. People are taking this very seriously.
They are. It just feels strange, doesn't it, reading about this and just hearing you talking about it. A boat of disease. It feels like we've gone straight back to the 12th century, and it feels like with the politics and everything else that's going on, we can't seem to make grown-up decisions about this. I'm like you, I think, on this. I'm not that bothered about this. Yes, it's 40. There's a 40% survival rate, and that is extremely worrying. But we live in the 21st century. We should be able to deal with this in a grown-up way and not allow people to die from it. But we can't just have a boat going round forever in the ocean until everybody dies of old age, can we? So something sensible needs to be done about it.
Yeah, the thing is, I think, the problem with this is there's been so the media have covered this in a bit of a frenzy, I'd imagine, around the world as a result of COVID. And so now the difficulty is the government who turns around and goes, right, it can dock here, we will treat the passengers, is taking a huge risk of public backlash. That is the problem. It's a bit like the boy who cried wolf, isn't it? They shouted so much about COVID that now we've got this situation, which I, like you, sort of think I don't believe it to be an extremely transmissible virus. Ebola's much worse. And yet we are, everyone's going to want to wash their hands of it because of the potential public reaction.
Well, my God, if I was this government, I'd be embracing the disease with both hands and thinking, my God, it'll stop people thinking about the elections. It'll stop people thinking about our meltdown. And I remember monkeypox as well. Do you remember monkeypox?
Oh, yeah.
Everyone went berserk about monkeypox.
Yeah.
And nothing happened there. So it's a storm in a teacup.
Let us hope it is. But, I like the idea that Starmer could add it to his list of crazy ideas of how he's going to make the public like him again. Yeah, let's get that disease.
We need this disease. It'll be great for our PR. Yeah.
Excellent. Let's get the boat. But instead of MV Hondius, there are things that he wants to dock in Labour's ports. Sorry, that was a really terrible... That didn't work, did it?
That was a stretch.
No, that was not okay. But the concept he's come up
Peter,
with.
how are you dealing with this, Peter? I don't know how you're dealing with it. I really don't.
Honestly, neither do I. You know, where's my human rights at the moment? I'd like to know that.
He comes back for more punishment every week, is all I can say, as do you. So, you know,
I know.
check yourself.
Yeah.
But anyway, talking about comebacks, apparently Gordon Brown has been given a finance role as part of the Prime Minister's Next Steps plan. The announcement that Gordon Brown is going to be a special envoy on global finance says the PM is committed to boosting the country's security and resilience. In this role, Gordon Brown, Golden Brown then.
That was,
weird.
Always a frown with Gordon Brown.
Will advise on how Global Finance Corporation can help to achieve this. I don't think that one's being done so much of as a vote winner. I think this is a mitigation process, because the markets are going to have a wobble as long as they think that the Labour Party and the unions want to chuck Starmer out of power.
Well, everything's just free-falling, and not only have we got a loathed Blairite back in the game, we've got a disgruntled loathed Blairite back in the game. The most miserable man in the universe who actually in the long term created so much economic havoc, and here he is back again. It just says so much about what's going on at the moment. They are completely out of ideas. When I think about Gordon Brown, I think about Tony Blair, I think about Mandelson, I think about Alistair Campbell. You really want this person. There's nothing you can do with the economy anyway. You're a socialist, for God's sake. You've wrecked it. You just want to make it worse. I suppose people could blame Gordon Brown, and people can't stand him anyway. So there's probably a bit of a logic there. But there's nothing more. There's nothing you can dig down into this and economically and say, you know, what's the motivation here? You know, what good is this going to do? What are we going to get from this? Because the answer is a big fat zilch, isn't it?
Well, yeah, like I said, I think this is sort of risk management. I think he's going to be deployed around IMF and all the rest of it to say, please don't say our economy is going to crash. Yeah. I'm here, don't worry, I'm going to have a word with them. But there's also talking about comebacks and talking about sort of Blairites. It's been announced as well that former Deputy Labour leader Harriet Harman, who was once termed Harriet Harperson, don't know if you remember that, is set to be an unpaid part-time advisor on women and girls. The new role will see Baroness Harman advise the government on how to improve its response to tackling violence against women and girls, improve representation and boost economic opportunities. I mean, if anything says Jess Phillips, you're useless, it's this, isn't it? But the government have not taken the grooming gangs inquiry seriously. They didn't want it to happen. They're not taking, when you've got these women, the Pink Ladies et al, going out and protesting, saying that there are too many cases of undocumented men sexually assaulting, raping women, harassing schoolgirls. We don't know who the perpetrator is, but there's been another report of a rape on Bournemouth Beach again today in the press. Now, we don't know who's done that, but, you know, your mind automatically jumps to a certain conclusion. Why do they think bringing Harriet Harman in is going to suddenly make everyone go, oh, they finally get it, brilliant, they've been listening?
I don't think they do. I don't think they think that. Again, I think they are out of ideas, bearing in mind they are finished. We were all dancing on the grave of the Labour Party yesterday. It's over, it's dead, it's done with. And they are capable of anything, so they might as well just not bother with the issues. If you want to make women and children safe, you deal with mass immigration. That's what you do. And if you deal with mass immigration, you deal with Islamism. That way you can make women, vulnerable women in communities where they have no access to the broader society, you can help them as well. What you don't do, Alex, is bring in a woman who thinks men are women and women are men, and who has a shocking reputation in terms of the real issues. She will avoid the real issues like there's no tomorrow, and that's why she's here. Again, it's this thing of Starmer was saying, wasn't he? You know, we've not been delivering change fast enough. No, we don't want the kind of change that you've been delivering. Your policies have made you universally loathed and despised.
What is so...
Part of that is the fact that women, children, Jews cannot walk down the street now without fear of being stabbed or raped. It's just appalling.
And yet what I find so strange in all of this, and I'd love to get your opinion on this, is, you know, these issues really matter to me. They always have done. It's why I consider myself himself a part of a certain tribe politically. And yet, when it comes to men in female changing rooms, men in women's prisons, when it comes to indoctrinating young girls who have been, 75% of the referrals for children's gender things to Tavistock, etc., have been girls who generally don't have gender dysphoria. It's typically a male condition and only affects about 0.1% of the population. But so many young girls are reporting themselves saying we'd rather be boys. Again, the situation with men from misogynistic cultures and the threat that poses to women. Yet, women, it has been shown, of my age and younger, are voting for the parties who will make this worse. They're voting for the Green Party, who want complete open borders, legalised prostitution, legalised date rape drugs, which will make us the human trafficking capital of the world, who are all for the LGBTQ plus all the rest of it stuff. And that's what I find so astonishing. It's actually when people are going out to vote for parties who are talking about this, it is the men, not the women. How does that make sense?
Well, I think it, people talk about the manosphere, don't they, and the extremism and masculinity, but I think women have been radicalized over the last 30 or so years through identity politics. And there is this sense that women, and young women in particular, are particularly vulnerable to this framework, this kind of wolf in sheep's clothing of be kind and openness and that faux civility, which is actually dangerous to them. I think there's something else as well, or a couple of things, aren't there? A lot of these women, I think there's a class issue here. So a lot of these women are middle class and chattering class. Working class women, you will find, are much more likely to vote Reform or be Conservative or be socially conservative because they are closer to the consequences. I think middle class women, especially who have been to university, who've been through the mill, the indoctrination mill, are much more likely to have this, as we've mentioned before, this suicidal empathy, because it speaks to a kind of identity that they like, and it isn't about logic. We know none of this stuff is about logic or self-preservation. It's the opposite. And in a way, it's like, what is it, toxoplasmosis, that disease that rats get, where they actively seek out cat urine and cats. It's that kind of thing. It's a mind virus, and it's extremely worrying. But I think it comes down to indoctrination. I think part of it is ignorance, but also part of it is indoctrination, and this fascination with danger and being on the edge. I think there's something there about boredom as well.
I think you're right. I think there is this sort of sense of life is too easy and people want challenge, they want drama, they sign up to these ideas of persecution and oppression because it doesn't exist, and yet they sort of need that stimulation. They need to feel like they're campaigning for something. Someone's just messaged in, and I was waiting for someone to message this in. What were you scribing there?
I have a theory.
Peter the Apostle. But someone has just said a great idea having Harriet Harman representing women and girls. They seem to have forgotten she was associated with Pi. It was Harriet Harman, wasn't it?
Exactly.
The paedophile information exchange. Now, this was... Let's talk about Pi very briefly, because it was, as far as I know, it was an effort during the... Was it the 70s? And it was
early 70s. So the paedophile information exchange was actually a bunch of academics and social workers and politicians, which were saying essentially that paedophilia isn't a crime as such. It's a version of relationships, and what we can do is manage this kind of relationship, and it's perfectly natural for children to have relationships with adults. And of course, this is one of those things, isn't it? It sounds utterly bizarre talking about that now, but we have maps now, don't we? Minor attracted persons. It's exactly the same.
It's so great.
It's nascent identity politics, and it's one of these crazy theories which the left come up with time and time again, which eats away at the fabric of society, takes away the building blocks, and really impacts on and it's always the same.
The inversion of
the safety of women and children. The inversion of good and evil.
Yeah, it is. Now, what were you, that little scribbler over there? What are your thoughts?
Well, first of all, the pink lady's a bit more effective than the lady in the pink van, because let's not forget she used to drive around with those pink vans, Harriet Harman, didn't she? Trying to get all women to stand in Parliament, and they were absolutely useless. Do you remember that? That was in 20. Yeah, so that was her big thing, that she wanted to get more women involved, and she actually put people off, which I thought was quite funny. However, I'm just looking it up. You've got Gordon Brown, Harriet Harman, Andy Burnham, Alan Milburn, and Jackie Smith has got a non-advisory role. This is the Labour Party bracing itself against extinction. It is the same as David Cameron returning as Foreign Secretary when Rishi Sunak was in power.
The zombie apocalypse?
Yes. They are bracing for such a collapse that they think that the old figures will be there to hold it and prop it up to keep the party faithful going. That's my theory.
Right, we've got to...
Sorry, just to add on to that, one, they don't really have a party faith anymore of any meaningful numbers. But two, they are setting themselves up for civil war, because practically all the backbenchers loathe those people and loathe that version of Labour. Yeah.
Right, on that note, we've got to go to our next break, because as per usual, we're running late. Thank you ever so much, Philip, for joining us. Now, after the break, we are going to do messages and calls. So many good messages. I'm not going to read them now. But what I am going to do is give you the 7th and penultimate question from the Alex quiz. I don't have an 8th question yet. Detention bed. Now, who has been labelled an unexpected style icon for sporting a pair of vintage Nike trainers with his otherwise traditional garb? Who's an unexpected style icon in his Nike trainers? That's what I want to know. All right, answers coming up just after this.
The Crown is facing its gravest test in decades, and the royalty from Talk is your front row seat. With royal reputations under pressure and probing questions about public trust, we unpack every twist and revelation with the biggest names in the business. From the throne room at Buckingham Palace to a mansion in Montecito, we follow every royal ripple. Never miss a moment of The Crown in crisis. Subscribe to the royalty from Talk on the app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Detention bed. Now, do you know who the unexpected style icon was who's been tooling around in some tasty little vintage Nike trainers?
I don't know.
Do you want to venture a guess? I did sort of say him,
you said,
traditional garb, you know, give you a few leads. A man who might...
Is it the Pope?
It is the Pope! Oh, yeah. You see, you could have got there.
There we go, Pope.
You could have got there. All right, let's do a call, shall we?
Yes. Yeah.
Let's speak to Mark, who's in Glasgow. Good morning, Mark.
Yes, good morning, Alex.
What's on your mind?
Well, first of all, I have to say you looked lovely yesterday in your outfit. We were both quite taken with it.
Oh, I like the idea of both. Is this the royal we?
No. My partner and I are sitting here. She's busy reading magazines while I talk to you. I know, bless.
Thank you.
But taking, is it Peter, the gentleman with you?
It is.
Right, Peter, wash your mouth out. And I'll tell you why. About an hour ago, you said that, you talked about the people voting reform, the Tories, as a protest vote. Absolutely not. No. Both my partner, she's a staunch Labour supporter, and myself are voting reform and have done in Scottish and national elections now for some years, because reform actually do get on with and have a track record of doing what they say they're going to do, whereas the others gaslight us horribly. Labour say they're going to do something, then do the opposite. The Tories, Kemi is part of that as well, Cameron, Liz Truss, etc., all fought against Brexit and so on. And then when Brexit went through, they absolutely did their utmost not to repeal the ECHR, endlessly promising it, but never going to do it. It's BS, and it's not going to happen, whereas reform will actually get there. So I'm sorry, reform voters are sick and tired of being taken for granted and are now switching to the true Conservative Party, which is reform.
But it is that sense, isn't it, Peter? We're talking about the authenticity of the promise and the fact that because Nigel Farage has repeatedly said this before anyone else was doing it, because he suffered the consequence of saying, we've got a problem with immigration, you're a racist, you're a monster. He's had to live with that. It's been a threat to his personal security. And so as a result, you do sort of think, well, you know.
Yeah, again, we don't know whether he will or he won't, because he hasn't been tested or tried on it yet. There is a difference between being in power. Nigel Farage, in particular,
they've not formed a government.
They've not formed a government
it's
yet.
A fair point
and if you look at places like Kent County Council, where they have been in charge, there has been a little bit of chaos around it.
Well, I guess the proof in the pudding is the eating. But Mark, thank you ever so much for your call. We've got to go there because I've got to squeeze in a question. I really wanted to read some brilliant messages. I'll have to wait till after this next break. The next question is: David Attenborough turned 100 yesterday. Haven't we stopped hearing about that yet? I love David Attenborough, but calm down. Anyway, to mark the occasion, what type of animal has been named after him?
Oh.
There's a new animal called an Attenborough, but what is it? Right, there you go. I'm going to read some of your messages after this break, give you the answer to that question, and then we're going to also focus on Matters America with Steve Gill. Stay tuned.
Just breaking news in the last couple of moments. Extraordinary news. Not just that the police have arrived at the Sandringham estate where Prince Andrew, as was now Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, is currently living since being thrown out of the Windsor estate. The police have arrested Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. It's an extraordinary revelation and development on this story involving the Epstein files and all the allegations that have been swirling around about Andrew over the many years, from Virginia Giuffre, now sadly deceased, and since then, and certainly what's been contained in the Epstein files as released in the last few weeks. But the police have arrived at Sandringham estate this morning, where Andrew has made his new home. It's his 66th birthday today. What a birthday present that is. He has been arrested by the police. Of course, the brother of the current king, the second son of our late Queen Elizabeth. This is an extraordinary development. Those of us who've been talking an awful lot about establishment cover-ups and lack of, should we say, interest by the police in what are very, very serious allegations against Andrew. Perhaps pleased that that pressure has finally been put on the police, and they have done the job of actually looking into these issues seriously. Must bear in mind, of course, that the Prince has not been charged with any crime at this point, and he has always denied any wrongdoing in relation to any of the allegations about him. We'll give you more on that. We'll talk to you about that throughout the show, but I'm just being told that the arrest has been on suspicion of misconduct in public office. This, of course, relates to those Epstein file allegations and the documents that, if they are true, would suggest that he had, it is alleged, passed on basically what was confidential government information when he was the UK trade envoy for this country for 10 years to Jeffrey Epstein for Jeffrey Epstein's financial gain.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Detention bed. Okay, so David Attenborough, as we know, is 100 years old. I love David Attenborough, but this culture of having to beatify everybody all the time, special concerts, you know, sort of soliloquies from the royal family. David Attenborough is a national hero. I get it, but are we going to have, like, David Attenborough Day from now on?
I think we're probably going to get time off when he dies.
Oh, I think there'll be a state funeral. I
actually think there probably will be.
I love that guy. Everyone loves that guy. But also, he didn't like Brexit, which sort of put him in my bad books. But the thing is, you know, no offence, David, but you've had a blessed life. A lot of people out there would have loved to have worked for the BBC, being flown around the world to play with orangutans. You know, unfortunately, not everyone had that great privilege.
Also, the Attenborough family are the definition of privileged, so...
But everyone loves David Attenborough, I get it. But we have to do this, don't we? We have to turn people into saints. It's just like, leave the man be. He's 100 years old, well
we
done.
didn't turn him into a sinner.
It's
we do usually do that.
You know, well, no, it depends, doesn't it? You know, Captain Tom, Greta Thunberg, David Attenborough. You know, like, if you love religion that much, go to church. Right, anyway, so there's been an animal named after him to honour his centenary. But what animal is it?
It's a wasp.
It is a wasp. A parasitic wasp.
Well, he's got loads of things named after him, hasn't he?
Does he?
Yeah, it's like flowers, and I think I'm sure one year was a flower. Sorry, a snail. Sorry.
Oh, yeah, I think I heard of that.
Yeah, because it was something really weird, and people are like, why did you pick that?
If you were going to have an animal named after you, a species, what would you like?
Oh, God. I don't know, really. I don't really think about it. It's not really something I think about on an average day.
I was just thinking for myself there, and I don't know why, but I immediately thought a starfish. I don't know why. I mean, normally it'd be a cat. Cats, obviously, because cats are the best. But right, we've got a bit of news for you. Which is several people have been injured after a car crashed into multiple pedestrians in Arnold Town Centre. In Nottinghamshire, that's happened this morning. One person suffered life-threatening injuries. A search is underway for the driver who abandoned the car and left the scene. There is no indication at this stage of any ongoing threat to the wider public. So, obviously, when we hear of cars going into pedestrians, our mind thinks the worst, but we don't know much more. But we will let you know if we do learn more. I'm going to move back and tie up some loose ends because we haven't got long towards the end of the show. And I want to say thank you, TechOp, because he's done mathematics, but it wasn't what I wanted. TechOp has... someone's done... Oh, Faith's done math. Thank you, Faith. TechOp, why did you not do the maths? Across England, Wales and Scotland, Reform and the Tories combined won 2,246 seats out of 4,980 available seats. What is that as a percentage? That's what I want to know.
Yeah.
I can't do maths in my head, so someone's going to have to get out the magic calculator. I just want to know if the left-right split is 52-48. My gut tells me this.
The one thing I do know really quickly is actually that the combined vote share of the Labour Party and the Conservatives for the first time was just about over 41%. A few years ago, it used to be nearly 92%. If you want to see why this was a protest election, that's why. It was punish them.
You'll upset Mark in Glasgow if you keep saying protest.
But, you know, if you define you voted for something because the other party didn't do something, that is the definition of a protest vote.
Or is it the definition of choosing something better?
But why? What is the motivation of the choice? The other party didn't do what you wanted them to do, so you're going to punish them or protest against them.
Tomatoes, tomatoes. And on that note, let's go to America. See, I lined that one up especially. I know, I did. My brain works quickly sometimes. Let us cross now to, we have him on every week, you know who he is by now. Brilliant former White House official, Steve Gill. How are you doing, Steve?
Hey, good to be with you guys. And I suspect that my animal would be a reptile of some sort since I'm a lawyer. So it'd either be an alligator or some form of snake. So, you know, just for future reference, if I ever get honored with an animal type.
Well, I really hope to have a Steve Gill skinned handbag one day. Right, let us talk about things going on stateside. We will, of course, mainly be talking about aliens, because it's very exciting. But there has been big news in terms of a 3-day ceasefire announced between Russia and Ukraine. It's sort of been slightly lost in the UK news agenda. But do you think that this is any sort of breakthrough, or is this potentially Putin getting a little bit scared that if his parade went ahead and there wasn't a ceasefire, that it could become a target?
I think the folks that should be scared are the folks in Kiev, because Putin and the Russians have said, look, you attack our parade, we're going to hit you harder than you've ever been hit before. And there have been apparently traffic jams of people leaving Kiev and taking that to heart. I don't know that this holds. I mean, you've had some attempts at ceasefires in the past, and they really haven't held. And we're kind of seeing the same thing with the U.S. Iranian ceasefire. You know, you still keep seeing shots fired back and forth. So any idea of moving towards peace is a good one. It's just a matter of whether it can actually hold and actually come to pass.
And let's talk again about Iran, because in theory there's a ceasefire, but there have been Iranian vessels trying to break the American-imposed blockade, which America has fired upon. I mean, it's sort of it's a ceasefire not really doing its job.
Well, and when you've got the United Arab Emirates now doing kind of a coalition with Israel, I mean, when you look at, and we've talked before, what's happening in the Middle East, whether it's, you know, that you've got Lebanon and Israel in talks, you've got the UAE siding with Israel and taking on Iran. I mean, there is like a global epic historical shift going on. Now, again, whether it holds past this, you know, current event of the enemy of my enemy is my friend. But, you know, as long as Iran is a threat in the region, it's putting people together that have not been together for, in some cases, thousands of years.
Yeah, no, I agree with you entirely. The Abraham Accords and the astonishing reshaping of the global world order, of them, you know, Europe moaning and napping at the back of the class. But with both of these, you know, Trump came into the White House for a second time saying, I'm going to sort out Ukraine and Russia within, you know, a matter of a week, just you watch me go. And then he said when he went into to deal with Iran, and, you know, anyone who listens regularly, and you know, Steve, that I fully supported that. Well, I still do. I find the ceasefire mildly disappointing on some level. But he's not been able to unpick either of these, because what you've got is a very sort of determined, obstinate, unrealistic, I'd say, leadership in both Iran and Russia, who are determined to fight to the bitter end, whatever the cost. I think the casualty rate for Russia alone is 1,000 men a day dying on the front lines. It's you know, they call it the meat grinder, but Putin seems totally unperturbed by that. Similarly, the flailing regime in Iran, which must be sort of heading towards a big economic precipice as a result of the American blockade. The problem is when you've got aggressors like Iran and Russia, logic and common sense and negotiation aren't part of their language. So where does this leave Donald Trump when he's, you know, promised to solve so much in the world?
I think the problem with Iran is, as you mentioned, you've got the IRGC, the Revolutionary Guard. You know, they're hiding in their bunkers. They're not getting hammered economically. They're still doing fine. You know, their you know, relatives are fleeing to the U.S. and living high on the hog and into Europe. But the people in Iran are suffering, and they've shut off, you know, all the internet communication. So we don't know what's happening internally, even though they claim, oh, you know, the protests have stopped. Yeah, you kill 40,000 people on the streets protesting. That will tamp down, you know, a protest movement. So I think the problem is, until we go back to military bombardment and make it not only economically painful but physically painful to the IRGC, I don't see that they come to the table. The other thing I would ask is, when you look at the casualty rates that are being reported in the Ukraine-Russia conflict, are we really getting accurate information from Ukraine? I mean, they're importing now, and you're seeing all these videos of thousands of Indian and Pakistanis and others on the streets of Kiev as they're importing people to replace the guys they're still grabbing and sending to the front lines. Wow. If you're having to grab your own men and force them to the front lines and then replace them with workers from foreign countries, what is their real casualty rate?
It's very interesting. I wasn't aware of that. Were you aware of that at all,
No,
Peter?
that's not on me.
That's brand new to us. And do you know what you will find, Steve, in the United Kingdom? I was just saying about how we've beatified David Attenborough. We all love David Attenborough, but we have to get too mawkish about these things. In the UK, we've largely done the same with Ukraine. Yeah. You know, and no one's saying, well, listen, this sort of arming them just enough is creating this war of attrition. What is your plan? No, you can't say anything like that. If anyone turned around and said, you know, anything other than we're going to back Ukraine 100%, you're screaming at as if you should face a witch trial. So it's really interesting hearing that. Going back to Iran, I think I had read somewhere or heard somewhere that there are discussions potentially about America arming Iranian civilians. Is that true, or is that a sort of fake news, as Donald Trump would say?
No, I think anytime you're going to have the possibility of the Iranian people taking back their country, and keep in mind that when the Ayatollah was flown back in from France, it was all these promises of, you know, we're going to be progressive, we're going to be this, and immediately they stamped down with the theocracy, radical Islam that, you know, that have been imposed at gunpoint on the people of Iran all this time. So, you know, you can protest, you can wave placards and signs and chants, but if the guys with guns outnumber you with guns, you're not going to be able to overthrow a country. You're not going to have real regime change. So at some point, the U.S., the West are not going to go boots on the ground to try and physically take Iran. It's a country, you know, the size of Texas. It's bigger than large portions of Europe. You can't physically do that with boots on the ground from outside. That has to come from within. And again, you know, when they execute 40,000 plus people who protest, that next round of protesters are going to say, let's just wait this one out and see if the regime collapses. I think the economic collapse is going to start to have an impact when the soldiers aren't getting paid, when the police who, you know, keep their thumb on the people aren't getting paid. They start thinking they're what's next for them and their family. And you see maybe a fracturing of the ability to keep people down at gunpoint. But then do you have others come in, arm the civilians, and let them be able to move forward? I think that unfortunately that's going to be the only resolution. And as you and others have pointed out, you can't leave this half done. And as long as those who are still determined to have nuclear weapons and ballistic weapons systems and control the weapons development for, you know, 5 years, you can't let them have any power.
Let's talk now about the biggest news, in my opinion, coming out of America, which is Disclosure Day, the declassified UFO files. Now, I am fascinated by this. Unfortunately, Steve, most of the UK just doesn't seem to care. They don't seem to have the same curiosity or intrigue that I have when it comes to this topic. Although our listeners have been messaging me a lot about this because we've got very sound, sensible, creative minds that listen to talk. But what is going on? What's been released? Why is it coming from Pete Hegseth of the Department for War? Is this a real deal? What are we going to expect to happen next? Is Donald Trump going to get on a dais and tell the whole world we are not alone? Is this a distraction because there are various conflicts around the world that are failing to be resolved? What is your take, Steve?
I know you guys and I are waiting for that moment when, you know, Donald Trump steps to the presidential press room in the White House side by side with some alien, whether it's some green man, whether it's, you know, some character that has, you know, looks like some of the Star Wars or Star Trek movies. I want that. I mean, the grainy black and white stuff is interesting, and what we're seeing in some of these videos would be physically impossible with the technology that we have. So there is something going on, and I know you talked with my good friend Tim Burchett a few weeks ago. He says this is the tip of the iceberg, the holy cow. What the heck moment is coming, and I tend to respect what Tim has seen and what Tim says on this topic.
Yeah, we got Tim Burchett before Joe Rogan this time round, can I just say? You've got to tune in to Alex Phillips on Talk. This is where it's at. But it's interesting because, you know, when we talk about things like sort of psyops or people being conditioned to receive certain information, without a doubt, we've seen a huge uptick in coverage, documentaries on Amazon, on Netflix, all about UFOs or UAPs. We've got a Steven Spielberg film coming out this year. In fact, in the UK, there's a big book about UK UAP sightings due to to be published around now, I think. So what is the motivation here? Do you think we are being prepared for this sort of life-changing, humanity-challenging information? Or is it just that we live in such an interconnected digital world now that it's become harder and harder to suppress this stuff? Or is it just a load of baloney made to distract us?
I think, again, you've seen too many videos. You've had too many military officials, fighter pilots and others who have said, look, we saw this. And again, when you see these videos, I think the pressure is just increased because there are more media outlets that they can't continue to suppress. They can't continue to hide this forever. And I think that, again, it's the preparation of, if this is going to be a holy cow moment, if our whole existential view of life and the cosmos changes, because whether we've got aliens traveling thousands of light years away, whether it's through wormholes or shortcuts, or whether it's multi-dimensional characters, which many believe is what's really at play here, that traveling light years away, hundreds of light years away, may not be impossible under, or be possible under any theory. The ability to have people literally move from one dimension to another, and there's actually references in the Bible and others of different dimensions and planes. I think, again, people are being prepared for that. And we start with the movies, we start with television series, we start with documentaries, so that when we are told the truth, it's perhaps not as shocking to our entire system as it might be if it's just from completely out of the blue. Imagine in 1850, for example, when you didn't even have automobiles or planes, all of a sudden they say, oh, by the way, there's people flying in spaceships from thousands of light years away. It would have been a shock that people would not have been able to recover, maybe because we've seen it in movies, the Marvel movies, and again, Star Wars, Star Trek, and everything else, that we're a little bit better conditioned to say, oh, yeah, I can believe that.
It's fascinating stuff. Steve, thanks as ever for joining us. We always love having you on, the brilliant Steve Gill. We've got to get into a break very quickly because we're actually off air in about 2 seconds. Yeah. We've got to get one in before then. And I have come up with the 8th, 9th, whatever it is, and final question. Question number 9, in fact. Here we go, because we were talking about him earlier on the subject of aliens, Gordon Brown. Has been given a finance role as part of the PM's Next Steps plan. Now, is Gordon his actual first name? No, it is not. So what is it? What is Gordon Brown's actual first name? Yeah, OK. Answers after this.
The Crown is facing its gravest test in decades, and the royalty from Talk is your front row seat. With royal reputations under pressure and probing questions about public trust, we unpack every twist and revelation with the biggest names in the business. From the throne room at Buckingham Palace to a mansion in Montecito, we follow every royal ripple. Never miss a moment of The Crown in crisis. Subscribe to the royalty from Talk on the app or wherever you get your podcasts.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Tension bed. Okay, so I came up with a last-minute question because I had prepared 7, and there's actually 9, which is Gordon Brown is back.
Yes.
But he's not actually called Gordon Brown. He's something Gordon Brown. So what is his actual first name?
It's James.
It is, well done.
I knew it.
Did you know it? But we were just discussing during the break, weren't we? Why so many politicians change their name? Because Boris ain't Boris, he's Alexander.
Yeah.
Alexander
And
Boris
American.
Johnson.
Yeah.
George Osborne.
Gideon. Yeah. Well, for them, it's a posho thing, but interestingly, most people up north know me as Christopher because that's my middle name. I'm Ollie Peter in London.
Oh, yeah, that's because everyone in your family's got the same name as you.
Yeah, because we're a bit weird. But
true.
no, I honestly, I think in their cases, I think it's, I would like to know when they changed the names.
Yeah.
That would be the, because
Was
I
this
have a
school,
feeling
university, or to advance the political career?
Advance the political career is my theory, because no one's voting for Gideon. They might vote for a George.
There's something really unsavoury about, like, David Poulden. Yeah, you know, about you want us to think that you're a real person and honest. Oh, great, you just change your name, take on a new identity. What was Grant Shapps' magical? Didn't he have a magical businessman name?
He did, didn't
Michael
he? Yeah.
Green or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was very strange.
That was strange.
Yeah.
Let's round up on some messages, because there have been lots of random and brilliant ones. This is one of my favourites. I meant to type problematic, but have mislaid my glasses. Sorry. I think there must have been another message before that, but I didn't find the first one in the sort of needle in the haystack of all the other messages. So I don't know what that means. I hope you found your specs. My absolute favourite, this almost got me into trouble because we're having serious discussions and my eyes caught the message screen and someone's just written, send dirty boats to the Bermuda Triangle. Problem solved.
I love that.
I love that as well.
That's brilliant.
We were talking about Iranian carvings, and Margaret said they were linked to Zoroastrianism. And can I just say that, look, TechOp actually managed to print them out. There they are. They're beautiful. They look very sort of ancient Egyptian, don't they?
They do.
But that is the sort of Zoroastrian sign. The bird thing.
You and birds.
Me and birds. So brilliant messages there. And someone's actually they did actually send some questions. And I read some of the questions. I was like, come on, that's too hard. But here we go. Hi, Alex and Peter. A question for your listeners: what language did the word quarantine originate from?
Quarantine, probably like Hebrew. No.
Oh, come on.
Quarantine.
Does that break it down into parts? That's a. If you're going to say what language family quarantine belongs to, you really want to go Hebrew?
Well, it's weirder words. I don't know the answer. No.
It's Latin, isn't it? Yeah, it's it's Italian apparently.
Well,
I'm just going to trust Paul on this. But apparently so. There you go. You'll be in trouble with your wife when you get home.
He's in Milan anyway, so it's fine.
There you go. That's how you've gotten away with that. Well, this is quite a dark message from Tim saying, Alex, darling, you and Peter must remember every one of our current politicians may not run, may be locked up, or may not be with us in 3 years. All right. That's quite ominous, isn't it?
I'm trying to hope that he means, like, elected. Because it is interesting, most of the cabinet won't be elected again. But
they may be in prison. Is he actually anticipating that people might...
Yeah, I don't think it's a good idea for a new government to always come in and then start arresting the previous one. Doesn't end well for countries that do that. Though France, interestingly, have a tendency to do it quite a lot now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, because is Sarkozy in Clink still?
Yeah, not anymore, I don't think so. Ironically, he wrote a book because he was bored.
What, in prison?
Yeah.
Well, you know, Jeffrey Archer did it, they all do it.
They all did it,
Nelson Mandela.
Yeah.
Adolf Hitler, was he in prison?
Yeah, he did. That's why he wrote Mein Kampf, and Martin Luther King.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, there's
all
two ends of the spectrum.
Come out of incarceration. But I haven't checked in on what's going on with Sarkozy for quite some time.
Yeah.
Oh, and by the way, the percentage is the Tories and Reform combined won 2,246 seats out of 4,980 available seats, which is 45% actually. So no, my idea that this was going to show a grand coalition of the right is possible actually isn't true.
Well, yeah, you've just argued for a coalition.
We are yet to get election results in Bradford, Croydon, Lambeth, Lewisham and Tower Hamlets.
Those are 3 big ones: Lewisham, Tower Hamlets and Bradford.
We can imagine which way they might go.
Yes.
Again, Bradford could be an interesting coalition of Reform reform and the pro-Gaza candidates.
Yeah.
Right, ladies and gentlemen, that is all we have time for today. I've thoroughly enjoyed your company, thoroughly enjoyed Mr. Barnes' company as per usual.
Thanks for having me.
He's going to slink off into the sunlight now.
Yes. And then I'm back on 8 a.m. We've just
Are you back at 8 a.m? Well, I'm also back tomorrow at 10 a.m. For the usual news, views, banter, a little bit of fun, updates on what's going on with MV Hondius and all the rest, and of course the wonderful Paul Cox. So thank you ever so much for your company today. I hope whatever you're doing, it's filled with joy, family, sunshine, and a three-fingered gin and tonic. And I am very much looking forward to welcome you back on board HMS Undiseased Common Sense tomorrow at 10. See you then.